What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to episode 64 of the X Button Gaming Podcast. Can you believe it? 64 episodes strong. And you know, a few weeks ago, everybody said, you did a Nintendo 64 episode, and this was episode 61. You messed up. This should have been episode 64. Well, joke's on you guys, because we can talk about the 64 again, and we will in this Collector's Edition episode.
This was the plan all along.
Uh-huh. No, I did not come up with this after it was said. Not me. This was planned days in advance. No, but yep, that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about some of the rare and expensive Nintendo 64 games in the main topic. But first off, as always, I'm your host, Chris, and I have a couple of guests here with me today. Frequent returning guests for Collector's Edition episodes. I have my friend Jimmy here.
Hello, everybody. Let's do this thing.
We're going to do this thing, and he's got his Windfish shirt on and everything.
Let's go. I know. I got this at PAX. I'm really hoping they have a booth, the upcoming PAX. I just hope Nintendo shows up at all.
The Windfish has a booth?
No, I just remember getting this shirt that was the first year. It was when, ironically, it was when Link's Awakening was releasing the remake on Switch.
That's probably why they had that shirt there.
What I'm saying is this is the first year they had the store, like a Nintendo kiosk, basically, with actual licensed Nintendo merch, shirts, notebooks, pens, and stuff, and
underwear.
I remember that being really cool. And I'm hoping that they bring that back.
I hope so, too.
But again,
Nintendo merch is always a good thing.
I'll just be happy if Nintendo shows, because when any of the big three show at PAX these days, it feels like, yay, we win.
God, it used to be all three of them there every time.
I know. And they're right next to each other, too.
Mm-hmm. And it was a fantastic triangle.
That's one fantastic triangle.
Oh, man. Are you going to go to PAX this year, Jaden?
I'm thinking about it.
Oh, we got a group going on Saturday if you want to join us.
Right on.
Speaking of Jaden, Jaden's our other guest today.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I was wondering if that was my intro earlier. Okay,
we'll take this lame intro.
I'll take it.
Nah, it was extra special for you.
Yeah.
No, thanks for joining us again, man. So
of course,
this will be a fun one. So obviously I know James and his 64 history. What's your history with Nintendo 64?
I didn't have one growing up. My cousins had one, and when we would go over there, the 64 was just a magical console to me. It was even like playing Mario 64. Even when we already had like a PS2, it still just felt magical to me as a kid. So I do love this console, and yeah, I love the library.
Yeah.
Some bangers on there.
There are so many good games. Somebody made fun of the fact that I said there were too many games on the 64.
Joel.
Yeah, there are not that many games, but still, there are a lot of good games.
There's more than you realize, because when I think of the third-party support, sure, but you got the main Nintendo ones. But if you look at a list, you're like, no, there are a lot of must-plays, must-haves for this system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. And we're going to talk about that more in a little bit here. But like I said, this is a Collector's Edition episode, so we'll start off we have a few different segments we always do. But a little disclaimer, or I don't know, update, I guess, is probably the better word. Update. Doodle-doo-doodle. What's like the news update sound they do? Okay, so one-ups and pickups we've decided to change for the podcast. We've had requests. I've had a couple of friends and other listeners say that they'd like to have more of a visual aspect to the one-ups and pickups, because it's fun to hear about what we got, but to see it would be even better. So we talked about it and we decided, I guess I thought about it for a while first, and then I decided let's see if we can't make it YouTube content, actually do video content. And James and Jaden agreed that made sense. So before recording the episode, we actually did the whole one-ups and pickups segment via video that we'll post on YouTube eventually. It will not be up before this episode is up. It will be up well after, because I have other things I have to work on to get it going, and I probably take more editing and stuff. It's my first YouTube video, so it will take a little bit of time. But if you're wondering why the one-ups and pickups changed, this is why. We will be doing the majority of it via video going forward. But that being said, we didn't want to completely remove it from the Collector's Edition episodes. So we decided we will just keep a few of our favorite pickups. Even if we talk about them in the YouTube video, we'll still talk about them in the episode, each Collector's Edition episode. So it's still here. It's just changed, and we're going to switch to a little bit more of a visual aspect for it. So keep an eye out for that. I will post when I finally have it loaded on to YouTube. But like I said, I would expect it to be at least a week or two before I get that up. So
Let us know how we did with our hands. If they were in the right places, if they were in pockets too much, if they were crisscross applesauce.
oh yeah, I did not know what to do with
running
my
through
hands.
the hairs on my head. Just any comments are
constantly-
appreciated.
just roaming his hands
I
to his hair.
was kind of fidgety. I was kind of standing for a little long.
Yeah, man, it's funny because that scene in Talladega Nights where I don't know what to do with my hands. And his hands keep coming up.
Yeah.
And it's like, it is funny because I always think just keep them down. But it is hard. It is hard to keep your hands in one spot when you're doing a video thing, when you're standing up. Like, I constantly was like, I had them crossed and I was like, no, put them on my side. And then they'd slip into my pockets. And then I try to pull them back out.
It's much easier to just be a voice rather than a whole human form and also
Yeah.
a voice.
Yeah. You can't act natural when there's a camera pointed right at you. It's hard.
And a
Yeah.
light and Hannah watching.
Yeah. Oh, that was the worst part. I'm just kidding.
kept staring. No, it was.
Thank you for your assistance, Hannah.
It was fun. I do feel like we have a little bit of a I don't know, like a benefit though, that we already have a podcast and like a listener base that can give us feedback. I feel like a lot of people start a YouTube first and then eventually start a podcast.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. To me, the YouTube part is harder. So like I do look forward to hearing feedback, what we can do to improve. We're not professionals. I'm trying to be professional, but we're not professionals. So feedback is always appreciated. And we'll just continue to try to improve it as we go. But that is the plan going forward. So, but we'll go ahead and start off with our one-up and pickup. I unpluralized it. You see what I
Don't
did
do
there?
that.
Oh, I see.
No, we'll do our one-ups and pickups. But like I said, the truncated version. So why don't we start with Jaden?
Okay, I got a few Xbox games here. I
Nice.
got Shenmue 1 and 2. Like we said, we've talked about this on the video. I wanted to get this for Xbox. It just felt more like an Xbox game.
Mm-hmm.
Got that one. I also found at a thrift store Disney's Extreme Skate Adventure, which is a Tony Hawk-like. I guess it is a Tony Hawk game running on the same engine. So I knew about this game for a while. I finally just found it in the wild, and so of course I had to grab it.
That game is just so weird to me. It's in
It's
a
really
good
weird.
way, but like
Yeah.
that it even exists. Like
Yeah, it's like they wanted more kids to get into the skating. I don't know. It is weird. Like it's weirder than like I thought it was when I actually played it. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I already knew this was gonna be weird. This is weirder than that.
this is wacky to backy.
Imagine being
Yeah.
Simba having 4 limbs and trying to skateboard.
Yeah, and then like Timon and Pumbaa, they're like on like this log that I guess has wheels, or does it have? Or they're just sliding around. It's weird. The level design is weird. The goals that you do are like, yeah, really weird. And then I have Need for Speed Pro Street, as I've talked about in the video. Update on. Well, first let me say why I picked this one up. I picked this one up because my favorite musician, music producer guy, The Toxic Avenger. I love his stuff. His electronic, chill, dark synthwave, I guess you can call it. I love his style. I talked about on earlier episodes the game Road 96. He did the soundtrack for at least some of the tracks on there, I want to say. And the game Fury, him and Danger and... Oh, I'm blanking out on the other names, but I know the names. I know the artists. I like those artists. I have those games. I want to own the games that have that Toxic Avenger had a part in, at least in the soundtrack department. So Need for Speed Pro Street has a song called Escape, which was remixed by the Bloody Beetroots, who I also like. So that's why I grabbed this one. It was super cheap, and I was aware it had a song in there. But update,
Ooh,
because I looked it up. I thought,
it's a podcast exclusive
yeah,
update.
I thought I at this point I was like, okay, I guess I have all the games where the Toxic Avenger has done a song for. Turns out I'm missing one, and it is Ubisoft's The Crew, another car game. So,
Hold on, isn't the Crew offline now?
oh no,
So is it-
oh no!
well, you can still own it, but you might not be able to listen to the music.
You know, I probably want to play it anyway, but That's the missing one. As far as I know, at this current moment, I guess he did a song, Angst 2, which I love that song. So I got my eye on that one.
That's
Very
cool.
nice.
It's actually a really smart. Like I love doing like unique subsets, like collecting very specific things. And that's a smart. I never thought about that. Collecting games that specifically had an artist that you really like. That's cool. I like that. I'd like you to post a picture of that, like all of them together. Like, and this is the Toxic Avenger set.
Toxic Avenger complete set and an achievement pop too.
Oh yeah,
And you love
Jaden
those.
would turn it off.
I'd take that achievement.
Oh man,
Notice me, Toxic.
notice me, swear to me. Oh man, James, what are your one-ups?
All right. Yeah, it's hard to know how much I'm supposed to hold back because we already talked about these, but
Well, like I figured, not everybody who listens to the podcast is gonna watch the YouTube channel.
yeah.
So
I got to do justice to what I got, right? So, Animal Crossing Wild World on DS. I don't often get DS games, but this time I got this one with a purpose so that Hannah could play it for an upcoming episode. I remember putting a lot of time into Animal Crossing Wild World. Would have been the second entry available to us in the States in this beautiful series that now is beloved by basically everyone. Yeah. I from what I understand, it's somewhat a mirror of City Folk, which came on the Wii later. So yeah, I got that, and I'm sure Hannah's gonna have a good time, and she'll talk about it in the future
2 weeks
on the radio in the future.
Little Chief. How fun to quote movies that nobody else is understanding.
If you haven't seen Frequency, go watch it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Jim Caviezel's second best movie.
Yeah. What's his first?
Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh yeah.
Don't be
Oh, you're
stupid.
gonna say Passion of Christ or something. All right. So also another DS game I picked up, Metroid Prime Hunters. I'm really excited about this one. So the reason I picked this one up was because when the Nintendo Direct dropped and we finally got a reveal of Metroid Prime 4, a lot of people, it was their first time seeing the character that was that came out that was reflecting in Samus's visor, which was Silas or Silex. That's right. Another bounty hunter that was introduced in this game, Metroid Prime Hunters. So anybody who bought a DS back in the day, they received a little cartridge, a demo cartridge, Metroid Prime First Hunt. So you were able to play the demo version of this game back in the day. And I remember having a really good time with that. And obviously, Metroid Prime means a lot to me. So it surprises me that I never actually picked up this game when it was new and when I could have had a much easier time connecting with people via Wi-Fi. But
I mean, it came out, I don't know the date, but it came out years later.
this got out years later. 2004 to
5?
2006. What is it?
6? Oh, yeah,
Why is
6.
that just a dash? But I don't know. But it introduced 6 new bounty hunters we were not familiar with. It kind of expanded the lore of Metroid and Metroid Prime, weirdly. And so, yeah, if you guys have this game, let's play.
I guess it was only like a year and a half. So
A year and a
It
half.
wasn't as long
I
as
mean,
I thought. It
for
felt
them-
like longer.
For them to have a working, playable, like connectable with other players demo launching with the console, you would have thought that they were probably pretty close or well along into developing this game. I don't know. But we mentioned this on the video. It is noteworthy that because of Silex's appearance on that trailer for Metroid Prime 4, the price for this game crept up. It like kind of spiked. It would have been $35 complete in box at the time, at least via price charting. And over the course of a week or two, it went all the way up to what I saw, $70. And I don't know where it's at right now. I think it's lower again. I think it's dipped a tiny bit since, but definitely something to keep your eye out for, especially as Metroid Prime 4 launches and maybe people come to love Silex a lot more. I don't know.
I'm really kicking myself for not grabbing that before. Because I've played that back in the day. It was a lot of fun. I used to play with the kids on the bus.
You did?
The multiplayer, dude.
I'm
The
so
multiplayer
jealous.
is so good.
I heard it's really good.
Yeah, the hunters, like they have like different like guns or whatever, or like weapons. I think it's Silex who has like electricity. He was like so much fun.
Yeah.
And I don't love the Prime series yet.
Yeah.
But I remember playing that game.
Yeah.
And the controls felt really good. It was a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
do love that game. And so I was just kind of waiting, foolishly, I was waiting for it to kind of go a little cheaper, it being like $40, $35 for a while. I'm like, I'll wait. I waited too long.
Yeah, it seems.
You done messed up.
And
Yep.
I mean, it's possible that if Metroid Prime 4 doesn't come out till maybe like the end of next year, which seems to me a little long, but some people think it could come out. It could be a holiday 2025 game for Switch. If it comes out that late, it's going to be Switch 1 and Switch 2. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, maybe your window might have closed. But again, if it launches late next year, I feel like there's a decent chance it dips again when it's not like in the top of people's minds, the front of their minds, you know?
I'm not trying to incite FOMO, but I will say this. Metroid doesn't have a good track record of going down in price.
Yeah, that's true.
Most of the games go up unless they get a re-release, but even then, like we talked about this on the video a little bit. There's very few opportunities I see for this game to get re-released or ported or remade. Seems unlikely. It's a little too obscure, but I mean, Nintendo surprised us before, so it's possible. But
That one I'm really doubtful though, because the main campaign isn't great from
Yeah.
what I hear. It's just the multiplayer was like its greatest strength.
Yeah, the people bought this for multiplayer, not they weren't expecting some incredible, Metroidvania in 3D a la Metroid Prime. But another thing I didn't consider, and this didn't come to my attention on the video, but wireless DS single card download play. So it sounds like one game is enough to play multiplayer with people.
I mean, that was one of the coolest things that they did on the DS and 3DS. But yeah, single card download play means one cart for multiple consoles.
Even though it says 2 to 4. 2 to 4 is probably like the minimum to maximum of how many can play the game at the same time, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I guess now you don't have to have this game. You just need to have a DS. Let's chill.
Oh,
Do
James
this
wants to
thing.
chill.
I want to play. You
You
guys.
have your DS with you?
I didn't get to play with my friends on the
No,
bus.
Doesn't matter. I should have my
you have,
3DS
like,
is
multiple, don't
charged,
you?
and I
Yeah.
think one of those DSIs that I'm
Yeah.
going to talk about here in a second. I think one of those is charged too, so we could probably do a download play session. I'd be down to play
Really
it.
Man,
cool.
yeah.
That'd be fun.
So I looked it up, and the cartridge only is about 25 on average, and the CIB is about 50 on average.
okay, so it's dipped.
so-
It's dipped a tiny bit from the high that I saw a month ago, maybe.
Yeah, I talked about this already, but I have the box instructions and everything, so I need to get just a cartridge.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm going to do it before it gets too late. Because I actually, whether or not the story's any good, I still would like to play it.
And yeah,
Play through it. So
we're expecting Metroid Prime 4 to be good at the very least, and it's gonna be on Switch. So many people all of a sudden are gonna be aware of this character Silex that they may or may not come to love, and then all of a sudden awareness of this game is gonna go up too.
and look what the Switch did for Animal Crossing. Like Animal Crossing's at its peak now because of peak popularity now because of the Switch. Like it could do the same thing for Metroid Prime.
Yep. So those are the two games that I thought were most noteworthy that I picked up. Also, I picked up a new vinyl, which I'm not going to bust out again, but check it out in the video. I got Link's Awakening, the full OST video game vinyl. It is a boot, but it is a beautiful one. It is one of the premier releases of the year in terms of video game vinyl in the scene. People are really stoked about it. When it dropped, I didn't mention this on the video, but there were so many bitter people that it's funny when something comes out that's really, really desired. Everyone that it is in the group or has a connection, they tend to all post it at the same time on the Facebook, and so everyone's like, I got it, this is unbelievable, I can't believe it, I love this, do you like it? And there's just so many bitter people in the comments that are like, I can't, stop showing me this. It's just like it's funny. It's like a contrast between like, oh wow, this is amazing, it's available to people now, and people are just like, but why do you have to keep showing it to me? Because I probably won't be able to get it.
This isn't making me happy.
No, I'm sad.
But guys, check out the video. It is an incredible release. It is the entirety of the OST, so 115 tracks from the Link's Awakening toyetic remake on Switch.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, so it's what many people consider the best version of the Link's Awakening music. They added, I mean, it's beautiful, dude. I listened to half of it today, and I was just like, man, it's good. It's really
The
good.
Face Shrine.
Face Shrine. I didn't get to Face Shrine yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
It's beautiful what they've done.
Yeah,
It's super good.
sure.
I love the music in that game. I didn't share it on the video, and I don't have it right here with me, but I should mention that I did get a couple video game vinyl recently.
Really?
Yeah. Actually.
Oh yeah, I'm aware of one of them for sure.
Jarrett gifted me one. He was at I don't remember where he was at. He was at a store and they had Owls. He was at Owls and they have, some of the different video game vinyl there, and he sent me a picture of one that had Ness and Lucas on the cover. It was a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Earthbound collection.
Oh, nice.
And he was like, "Do you have this one?" And I was like, "No," but I mean, at the time I was like, "Yeah, I've already spent my budget for the paycheck, so I'll have to pass." But he ended up buying it for me as a gift.
That's awesome.
So yeah, thank you, Jarrett, and also like I'm super excited to listen to it. I haven't had a chance yet because my turntable wasn't working, my record player, but I finally got it fixed. I believe it seems to be working again. So I do actually plan to listen to it this weekend.
Nice.
And the other vinyl I got, was actually me and James this last weekend went to the Final Fantasy Distant Worlds concert in Seattle at the Benaroya Hall. And that was truly, truly like amazing.
It was good, and I don't even like really have an attachment to Final Fantasy. It was good.
Yeah,
it was really
funny
good.
at the very beginning. The first song they played, James leans over afterwards and he was like, "What song was that?" I was like, "That was nice." And I was like, "Bro, that was the Crystal theme. That is the main theme again across every Final Fantasy game ever."
Oh, it's beautiful.
This is nice.
Yeah, he was like, "It's so good." I was like, that's. I told Gary. So I saw Gary the other day, and I was talking to him about the concert and stuff because obviously he was on the Final Fantasy VII episode. He was a big Final Fantasy fan. I told him that, and he was like,
Here's the thing. I love classical music and orchestras, and it doesn't matter what the content or where the origin of it is. Like, I just love going to those shows, and so
I have a question then, and this might be a weird one. I have this weird feeling that it would be like quiet. How loud are like live?
Oh, you've never gone to a live orchestra?
I know. It is? Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty loud.
For some reason, yeah, I just worry. It's like, I feel like those would be kind of quiet.
No, I mean,
it's a weird.
"It's very
thought I
immersive."
have. Okay.
If it's a good venue like Benaroya Hall is, and like, say, I don't know, Sydney Opera House or something, like it is constructed purposely to reach every creek and corner of the area, so that every person there, even if you're in the technically nosebleeds, gets to hear it in beautiful audio.
I'm just like really easily frustrated at like a movie, for instance, when like I just hear everybody around me like either just making noises or talking or what have you.
Yeah.
I'm sure they wouldn't be talking at a live performance, but that was just a concern of mine. I'm like, I hope.
It's not like going to like a rock show or something, or like a but it is still very, very, very
It's very, very clear,
Very
very
audible.
immersive.
Okay.
I mean, I was.
That's good to know.
I'd be lying if I said like I wasn't a little teary-eyed at points. Like the chills were real. Like, I mean, this is a lot of music that has a lot of very strong meaning to me. So yeah, it was amazing. Anybody who's a Final Fantasy fan, if you have a chance to go to one of these concerts, I would highly recommend it. I would love to go again because they changed the set lists up. It sounds like in their different tours and everything.
I saw Portland's getting one in like October or November, and I think the theme this time is Rebirth. It's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
I saw that, and I would love to go, but I have too much going on that like the next 4 months to afford it. But man, that would be great.
I know, right?
But long story short, this was an amazing experience, and I loved it. But we got there early before we weren't like the first in line, but we were early in the line, and they had a merch booth, and I was able to. I mean, we probably had like 50 people ahead of us, maybe less. Like it wasn't a lot. So I was able to go up there and I got a vinyl based off of one of the tours, and it was just the selection was so good in this collection that I was like, it was a no-brainer. It's $35 and like it has Eris theme on it. It has the Midgard battle theme from the beginning of Final Fantasy VII. It has the oh, now I'm drawing on a blank on the name, but the opening theme from Final Fantasy VIII, which is one of my favorite songs. I absolutely love it. It's got, and then more. It was a great collection, and I had to get it. And I yesterday I was doing some stuff around the house and decided I needed to like make sure the record player worked so that I could listen to it, and fixed it and listened to one side of it and was like, just so good.
That's awesome.
So yeah. So those are my two recent final pickups. But
Nice.
my other pickup that I did talk about in the YouTube video that I wanted to talk about was that I did get a really good OfferUp pickup. Doesn't happen often. Like OfferUp is super hit and miss. Like I do get pretty fortunate on the free section, but when it comes to like good pickups that you pay for, it's you either miss them or they don't exist. But yeah, I found somebody posted a really bad post of a couple of DSIs, and it was really badly worded. The pictures were really bad, and it was 2 DSIs, a blue and a pink one, and a bunch of games. And I don't think I mentioned this in the video, but part of the reason why I was like, hold on, let me look through the pictures more, was the title did kind of give me a reason to think maybe there was something else. But one of the games in one of the slots that they showed in the carrying case was a 3DS game. So I was like, okay, let me look a little bit more. And sure enough, I looked, and there was also in the slot a black new 3DS XL.
Yeah.
So I ended up for $100. I got 2 DSIs, a black new 3DS XL in borderline pristine condition.
Yeah.
It needs to be cleaned up, but it's not scratched. For how scratchable these systems are, it's not scratched almost at all.
Especially a black one, too.
Yeah, it's in great condition. A bunch of DS games. Most of them are things that I'll probably sell off because not many people I know want them. Barbie stuff and ATV stuff like that. But I did get a copy of Mario Party DS, which is great. It's a great game. Sonic Rush, which I wanted, so that was cool. A couple of different 3DS games, but like the cream of the crop game-wise was Kirby Planet Robobot, which I'm super excited to play because I've always heard that's a great Kirby game, and I've never played it, and it's one that I've wanted, so I'm happy to have it. So yeah, it was just a really good pickup, and I don't... When an offer-up pickup happens like this, like it is a euphoric rush that I can't explain. Like
I get it.
The last one I had was like really early in the podcast was that Wii U that I found. I bought the box Wii U that had the Twilight Princess HD that you ended up getting. Like, that was another one. It was about $100, and but that was just 3 years ago almost. Like I said, I've gotten a couple decent pickups, but like if I get a couple of games for cheap, that's a good pickup. I'm happy with it, but it's not like mind-blowing. Dude, back in the day, James doesn't know this because he's never really done offer-up, but dude, back in the day in like the early 2010s, the Craigslist and offer-up pickups, dude, you didn't even have to be right on top of it. As long as you were there somewhat soon after it was posted. Oh, the stuff that I got. PS2s, 64s, GameCubes with multiple games. I got a 64 once with like 10 games, and one of them was Conker's Bad Fur Day, like $50. Like just a collection of stuff. Like it was so much easier. It wasn't nearly as competitive back then. Yeah. Times have changed. That's okay. It means there's more people in the hobby, which is cool. But it's still fun to get a nice pickup.
Yeah, and don't sleep on those badly titled posts that are badly titled. I know for searching for like a good like CRT TV, because a lot of retro gamers, they say play it on a real CRT TV that these consoles were designed for.
Yep.
I heard that you should search just old TV, because people who put in the listing CRT TV, they know what it is, and they'll try to like price this old TV for like $100. But if you just put old TV, that's probably just like a grandpa or something just getting rid of their old TV. Or it's free or cheap. So
yeah,
and still a CRT.
Yeah, and it's most likely a CRT if it's an old TV.
I saw somebody giving away a Sony Triniton recently. And by the time I saw it, I messaged a friend first who I thought might be interested in it. Turns out he wasn't. By the time I went to like post it to the Discord, it was already listed as sold or pending, I think. Which I probably should have posted it anyway. But that was because those are supposed to be like the cream of the crop for CRTs.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
Which I'm happy with mine because my TV has the VHS player in it, which I like having access to. But I guess you could just get a VHS player.
Yeah.
It's just one less thing I have to have hooked up to it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on from the one-ups and pickups, and we're going to go into the next segment, and that is...
Gets me every time.
Even though he talked about this new Nintendo Power Up issue in the YouTube video, which now I feel like I'm getting a little redundant talking about the YouTube video.
We've all brought it up like 5 times now. We'll get used to it.
Please watch it.
We'll get used to it.
We won't do this all the time, but
get used to
we
it.
do want you guys to watch it.
This is an adjustment. It's fair for
We're
them
just
to
getting
expect.
used to things, guys. But yeah, so we're going to do Power Hour, and James is going to go through his new issue.
Yes, sir. So what I got here is, let me turn off the battery saver so I can keep this open. I have volume 207 of Nintendo Power, the September 2006 issue, which the cover feature is Rayman Raving Rabbids, a game that, I'm familiar with Rabbids. I'm familiar with Rayman, but I wasn't familiar with that game.
It's a launch title.
Yeah. Was it a launch title for the Wii? I guess that makes sense.
I remember the night the Wii came out, I was working at GameStop, and we were there ready for the midnight launch. Well, for those of us that had it pre-ordered,
Mm-hmm.
that were employees, and we were playing a bunch of the different games, and we played that one for a little bit. I remember playing it.
Okay, yeah, I know I wasn't there. Somebody went and bought my Wii for me. We probably talked about this before.
Shout out to
Wow.
Tyler Makita.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. Appreciate that.
It's been a while. Hey, if you listen to this, Tyler Makita, I miss you.
So this issue was September 2006, and speaking of Wii, the Wii came out just months later, November 19th, 2006. So this is in that weird spot right before the Wii launch when GameCube is on its last dying breath.
Can we talk about the fact that how disgusting it is? That's almost been 20 years.
Yeah,
This does not feel like 20 years ago.
that is pretty crazy.
Ugh. Ugh.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
getting old.
There was a lot of overlap, though, in this era of Nintendo. I mean, the Game Boy Advance was still getting releases, according to this magazine.
Yeah, the Micro came out after the Wii came.
Yeah.
2005.
Actually, don't quote me on that. That might be wrong. Well, the Micro came out really late.
Yeah.
After the DS.
All
for
I know
sure.
is if you go to page 14, they have a most wanted list for the GameCube still. They have a most wanted list for the Game Boy Advance still, and for the DS, which had come out 2 years before this, I'm guessing? 2 years?
2004?
2004? Mm-hmm. They were about to get the DS Lite, I think, at this point in the DS era, I believe. It
We
is
might have
because
already had that. Yeah.
We'll see. So anyways, one thing I like to do when we get to this Pulse section of the Nintendo Power issue is we have here. I have the top sellers on the Nintendo DS at this time, this month, in history. So I'm going to give you guys 5 games. You were going to tell me what the top 3 sellers on the DS were of these 5 games. And
All right.
here are the games.
My body
What
is Reggie.
year?
2006, right?
2006.
September 2006. We have Brain Age. Brain Age, train your brain in minutes a day.
All right, number 1. Let's keep going.
We have Animal Crossing Wild World, which we've already discussed today.
Oh,
We have New Super Mario Brothers.
all right.
We have
Right.
Metroid Prime Hunters, which we also talked about today.
top
That's
3.
probably not making it.
We also
Love you
have
though.
Yeah.
Mario Kart DS.
Yeah, top 3.
Yeah, that's number 3 or 2.
So again, Brain Age, Animal Crossing, New Super Mario Bros., Metroid Prime Hunters, Mario Kart DS. Give me your top 3.
We agree. Brain Age, New Super Mario Brothers, Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Wow, that on the same page that quick.
Yeah.
Impressive.
How right were we?
You are close to perfectly right. Coming in at number 3, Metroid Prime Hunters.
Oh, man, I'm surprised it made top 3.
I'm surprised by that too. Actually, maybe you were.
So who did it boot out? Did it boot out Brain Age?
Well, we'll see right now. Number 2, Brain Age. Train your brain in minutes a day.
There's a reason you can get that game for like $1 any day of the week.
That makes
Because
sense.
it sold a bajillion copies.
And coming in at number 1, what do you think?
It's got to be New Super Mario Brothers.
New Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, like
Yeah, it sold.
So the one that fell out was you had Mario Kart for your
Kart.
third.
Mario
I'm
Kart,
surprised
yeah.
on that one. That
Mario Kart was
2005.
5th on there. Was 5th. So.
man, at this point, it was an earlier title, so maybe that's why it had already sold a lot of copies at this point. So
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I kind of thought that when you see a DS, like somebody selling one, those
Always
3
has
games
Mario
are almost always part of it. Like so, and you never see Metro Prime.
Which is maybe the first hunt you might get the demo.
Sure, you see that a
because
lot.
everybody had one of those if they bought a DS.
You only needed one cartridge for some of these multiplayer games, so maybe that was the reason.
Yes,
But if it was Mario Kart DS, you all had to be a shy guy, which was kind of
yeah. You only had
annoying.
like 8 courses too.
Yeah, but
was
man, that was still
lame.
fun. I mean, I've already said this once, but how cool was that we could play a game with one cartridge, but it gave you just enough incentive
was
that
nice.
if you had the money, you could buy it. You'd want to buy it.
Yep.
But like for the parents didn't have to buy a copy for each kid. You know.
no, it was very. It's just kind of surprising. It's like they wouldn't do that these days. They'd be money grubbing. They want every single copy to be sold that's possible to sell to a consumer.
Even Nintendo, who are as close to the good guys in all this as you can get, still, I don't think they'd ever do that again.
They still want your money.
Yep.
So page 16 in this, I'll take Nintendo DS games I've never heard of for 500. Mario Hoops 3-on-3. Have you
Dude,
ever heard of
never
this
heard
game?
of that?
I've never
How
heard
have
of
you
this
never
game.
heard of
I've
this?
never heard of this game.
And not only is it surprisingly decent, it's developed by Square Enix.
Yes.
And you can play as a Moogle.
Yes.
And I believe a Chocobo in it. So,
Moogle
for
it's
sure,
got
though.
basketball. It's a crossover game, which sounds really fun. Like count this among the I've got my eyes on you, because I've now got my eye on you.
Yeah, this game is always kind of in the back of my head as a DS game. Don't know why I don't own.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah.
know I don't remember ever hearing
Lewis
about this
used
game.
to play this game.
He did?
Yeah, this was a game Lewis had that he loved. Like I don't remember ever playing it, but I've always wanted
And
to.
just like Mario Hoops 3 on Final Fantasy isn't even in the title. If you're reading on a list of video games, you would have no idea that Final Fantasy was, or even that Square Enix developed this, obviously. So
Yeah, you can play as like Final Fantasy characters, right?
it says right here, we'll be joined by unlockable Final Fantasy characters, including White Mage, Black Mage, Ninja, Moogle, and Cactuar,
Cactuar.
each of whom has a unique special shot as well.
Nice.
So, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, so page
The ending there was a little
Page-
Well, he hasn't played it yet, so it makes sense. He doesn't
yeah.
have much to say on it.
But it is in the top list of games that James
Okay,
has never
guys,
heard of.
that is true.
It's only $20.
I
It
know.
only
it's
goes for
weird.
$20.
Check it out. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
I'm
pretty
telling,
cheap.
I'm gonna be thinking about it. So you go to page 18, and we got this little one of the inserts that makes it a complete in covers edition of this Nintendo Power, as I'm calling them now. There is like a nice shiny gloss Touch Generations insert.
There's a whole vinyl named after
So
that.
Touch Generations, I believe there was a Club Nintendo CD that was released for this, right?
I don't
What
remember.
was the music based off all the video games that were considered part of this era of the DS Touch generation. So this is basically a promo for the DS itself, but for all the games that were for everybody, right? So it even says it here: touch, make contact, feel a connection. Nintendo's Touch Generation series, exclusive to the Nintendo DS, allows you simple, engaging interaction with games that promote production over destruction, contemplation over domination. You don't have to sift through complex instructions or climb a steep learning curve. Just turn on the power, touch, react, and enjoy. Play a little, play a lot. It's up to you.
But
So-
Touch.
Yes. So Touch Generations games included Tetris DS, True Swing Golf, Sudoku, Gridmaster, Brain Age, Big Brain Academy, Electroplankton, which is famous for its Smash Brothers level,
Yeah, I need to get that game before it ends up eventually skyrocketing.
Nintendogs, and Magnetica, which I've never heard of, or I don't remember ever hearing about it. But yeah, it's just very interesting how they were 2 years into the lifespan of the DS. They were promoting it, you know. It makes sense, right? We were months away from the Wii, where they were trying to make video games playable to everyone. Hence Wii Sports and Wii Bowling and et cetera, et cetera. But I really liked the ad in here. There's a couple sitting on their bed, and there's like a wife and her husband like looking over at her shoulder,
What you playing,
like
honey?
like smiling, like happy that she's playing a video game. Probably she goes, "Did you ever think I'd be a gamer? This is so easy to get into."
Does
He
it really
goes,
say that?
Yeah, they have quotes.
Oh.
He goes, "Your brain age is 27, huh? I didn't know I married a younger woman."
Oh God, are these older people? What is going on? Here?
They look
look
they look
30.
like they look like in their 30s, but I don't know.
Jeez, that seems a little.
It's a little weird, but
Yeah, I'm not sure how to
it's,
feel about
it's
that,
innocent.
but it's funny.
It's kind of weird now.
So yeah. Anyways, moving on to page 20. They did shout out PAX, as we talked about earlier. Don't Miss Calendar, they had it on there. Don't Miss Calendar. PAX makes its third attack, making it to Penny Arcade Expo. PAX is the closest we'll ever come to a Game Geek pilgrimage. Last year, 9,000 gamers swarmed the second annual event. This year, PAX goes supersized, with even more concerts, panels, tourney play, and game demos. So PAX was still a relatively small shindig at this point.
Yeah, I've talked about that before. 2006 was the year before I went for the first time. I think me and Alex went in 2007, and it was still kind of small then. It was big, it was packed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was in comparison to the monster that it eventually became, where what was it, 30,000 people? Like, you know,
Oh, well, actually, I looked it up. Especially now with E3 gone and a lot of gaming shows kind of going the way of the dodo. PAX West is now, I think, officially maybe the biggest game show in North America, where like people go together. I think there was even last year 120,000 people went to PAX
geez.
West. Isn't that crazy?
that's a lot of people.
That's kind of surprising when you think about it.
Yeah.
So-
it always feels busy, but that's a lot of people.
120,000 according to the internet. Who knows what
Yeah,
you can
internet
trust
never
what the
lied to
internet
me.
says. So let's move on to page 50, where we finally get a reveal of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Blue
About
Rescue
time.
Team, Red Rescue Team. These were the first Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, which I've never actually played. But more importantly, they included a manga comic in the style of a Japanese manga, right to left. You got to read it Japanese style, but it is complete. It is in very, very good
They
condition.
stuck it in the book upside down.
Yeah,
So that
stuck
you're
in the-
like, read this the right way.
Yeah, it is weird.
How clear do we have to be?
They said the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon comic first appeared in Japan last fall as a serial in Koro Comics. We're pleased to present this first in a 6-series part or whatever. So it's
That's
pretty cool.
It's amazing to me how much content they used to toss into a Nintendo Power. All the extra stuff. It was cool.
Yeah, it's the fact that it was like you can tell that this was an actual like Nintendo Power was a department. It was like it was an official offshoot of Nintendo itself, you know, and so they had collaborations with the Pokemon Company and others, and that's just really cool. Maybe this is getting a little long-winded. Okay, page 54, DS Lite promo. They gave you 7 reasons why you had to go and buy another DS because you maybe already had a DS, but now they had the DS Lite coming, and this is why you had to get it.
It's light.
Yeah, 7 reasons, just so you know.
Why
And you
have
don't get to
one
know
when
any
you
of
can
them.
have 2?
No, you don't need to know them.
But there were 7 reasons.
There were 7 reasons. Okay, so I'm gonna go Nintendo DS games I've never heard of. This is actually gonna be 500. What page is this? 62. They were talking about a game that was coming out in Japan at the time. They were wondering if it was gonna come to the U.S. and I had no idea. Did you know that Tingle got his own Nintendo DS game in Japan, which never came to the U.S.
It wasn't a Club Nintendo game in Japan.
Was it?
I don't know if it was. Let me think what it. The
that
official name
Tingle's
of it
Rupee Land?
was Mogitate Tinguru no Barairo Rupee Land.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it never got a release outside of Japan. But it looks. You should see the cover of the game.
I've seen it before.
It's actually pretty cool looking, honestly.
I want to say there's like a Wind Waker spin-off game in Japan at the time too. I could be mistaken. Maybe that was GameCube. I forget.
They gave you a whole history of Tingle, and I've forgotten that Tingle's first appearance was Majora's Mask, but that makes sense.
Yes. I love how he looks in that game because he's just like weirdly.
Yeah, you're right.
He still looks goofy, but
he's-
he's like weirdly.
he's
like
kinda like-
way more detailed than
Yeah.
any other NPC.
And he's kind of portly. He's not like the skinny weirdo I'm used to seeing, I feel like.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that is.
It looks like it was sold. It wasn't a Club Nintendo game.
Oh, yeah. So, keep your eye on that, maybe. I don't know. Next up, page 88. We're almost at the end here, friends. We got a poster, but first, I wanted you to know that they featured the Pacific Science Center it's like a place where kids go for field trips, and it's right next to to the Space Needle, and it's just kind of like a science-centric facility.
Center.
Yeah, more for people that, just for kids basically, but like for anyone that has an interest in science. And they had a video game exhibit at that time in Pacific Science Center that they talked about in here. Seattle's got game, according to them. But they had a bunch of arcade video games and I guess probably the history of video games there. Anyways, let's move on to the poster. It is, trying to get it out. Dragon Quest Rocket Slime.
Ooh, that's cool. Rocket Slime's a cool game.
Yeah, they also there was a bootleg of this on vinyl that just recently got dropped too, which is supposedly pretty good.
I don't remember the music for it, but I did own the game at one point. And I remember really liking it.
Yeah.
What is it exactly?
So you play as the slime, and then you actually use the touchpad to like stretch him, and then like shoot him off, like kind of like as he's a projectile, I guess, and he like will attack stuff. But then you can just move him normally, I think, to pick stuff up. But he's his own weapon basically to attack. It's been a long time since I played it, but I remember thinking it was fun and lots of like strategy to like get past certain areas and stuff.
That's pretty much it, guys. But there was a little blurb here where somebody sent in some art of Samus, and they featured it in the magazine. And Nintendo Power said this: as the second most popular female character in video game history, we got to give the nod to Miss Croft. Samus Aran gets attention wherever she goes. And I just thought that was a weird comment. Like, is that even true anymore? Would you consider Lara Croft the most popular video game character that's female still? I don't even think that's true.
I think so.
You think so?
I mean, nowadays, okay, I guess now there might be a more popular female character, but I bet more people still know Tomb Raider. Like, maybe they don't know she's Lara Croft, but I bet more people know Tomb Raider than they really know Samus.
Even today with Smash Brothers?
I'm surprised Samus is up there. As number 2.
We got to have, guys, I think we just came up with an episode idea right here. Top,
Top
10,
10 ladies.
female video game characters.
I feel like we need to be really careful with this episode.
Starting to see a pattern here.
Lola Bunny.
Our ranking. Wait a second.
Your brain age
What are
is
you
only
doing?
your brain age is only 18.
Oh no.
Oh man.
Anyways, that's all I got, guys. That's it for Power Hour.
that was a good power hour.
Thank you.
Possibly the 5th best power hour we've had.
Hey, yeah, I'll take it. Top 5. That's not bad.
No, it was good. Thank you, man. All right, well, let's move into the next segment before we get to the main topic.
I've got my eye on you.
Never get sick of it.
Me neither.
I don't. It's great. I laughed the first time I heard it, and I laugh a little bit every time I hear it. All right. You know what? I'll start with what I've got my eye on. So, recently, Limited Run Games did their showcase where they announced some new games coming out, some new physical editions and everything. And one of the games they said was getting a physical edition was Tomba, which they're doing a remaster of, not just a straight re-release or port. So actually, the original creator is actually working on a remaster, rebuilding it to keep it true to itself, but also bringing it into the modern age a little bit. Mm-hmm. So they announced the physical edition, which I was like, okay, yeah, it's definitely something I'm going to get. But most of the time, Limited Run, when they do collector's editions, I'm kind of like, I don't need that. Like, it has to be one of the few collector's editions I bought from them was Toja Mineral Back in the Groove, because that's one of the few games where I'm like, it doesn't matter, I'm going to buy the most expensive version because I want the stuff. Even if it's not great, I want the stuff. And to be fair, that was a mediocre collector's edition, but I had to have it because it was Toja Mineral. I really like Tomba. I have fond memories of playing it on the PS1. I had a demo disc that had it. I played that one level you got over and over again because I thought it was fantastic. And years later, when I was at GameStop, I actually got a copy of it, and I still have that copy. And it's a fun game. I really like that game. So buying a remake of it or a remaster of it was always a no-brainer. But this collector's edition, I'm most likely going to end up getting it because it's one of the cooler collector's editions I've seen in a while from Limited Run. So it's $150, which is on the steeper side, but it's on the fair side for me for a collector's edition. Once you start breaking 200, then you're getting on expensive. But 150 is reasonable if the contents are right. So, and this comes with the game, obviously, whether you get it on Switch or PS4 or PS5. So it comes with the game. It comes with a steelbook, so that's a win. It comes with a physical soundtrack, which that's a win.
Yeah, I like that.
It comes with, which I believe now this is the second or third time they've done this, and I like this. It comes with a hardbound guide / art book. So it's a strategy guide, and I believe an art book too. So it has a little bit more than just the strategy guide walkthrough aspects of it. I think that's really cool. And the tipping point for me was that it also comes with figures, like action figures / mini statues of Tomba and one of the pig enemies that you fight. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is a super solid collector's edition. As long as everything's made decently, like for $150, this is probably one that I'm going to get. Like, I think it's really cool. I wanted to get the game anyway. This is a game I like enough that I'm actually probably going to buy it digitally on PlayStation on release and pre-order it physically on Switch so that I can play it right away, but I want all of this collector's edition content. So, yeah, that's what I've got my eye on. I'd be surprised if I don't end up buying this because I haven't been this excited for any collector's edition in a while that I could afford, because usually if I even think it's remotely cool, it's way too expensive.
Yeah.
And I think this is really cool. And then just a couple, and these are just I'm going to stick them in here because I actually think I'm going to add them to my list of things I'm looking for. And that's Metroid Prime Hunters. I want to get it loose. I've wanted to for a while, but it's fallen off of that list of things I'm constantly watching. I need to move it back up.
Yeah.
And now you made me want to get Mario Hoops too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's me and you both, man, now that I know about it.
Yeah.
Thank God for Power Hour.
Power Hour saved
is
my
just
life.
exposing us to things we had no idea about.
How Power Hour saved my life.
Thank you, Power Hour.
All right. Let's end with Jaden this time. So, Jimmy, why don't you go next?
Well, I had only one game in mind until you brought up Limited Run, and then I know that just a couple days ago I've had Ninja 5.0 in the back of my mind. I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger, but I do think that the collector's edition, which is still available to pre-order, I'm sure it'll end any Sunday from I'm sure I'll get an email like weeks from now. It'll be like, last chance, and that'll be what pushes me to get it, because that's how I often buy my limited run games, when I realize if I don't get it now, I can't get it ever, you know. But I think it's $80 for the Switch version. It's also on, is it PS5 or PS4? I'm not sure, but I think
Possibly both, but
it might be
at least
both.
one of those.
But physical copy, deluxe holofoil collector's edition box, which is fashioned after the Game Boy Advance box, which is pretty cool. Original soundtrack on CD. So I mean, for me, that's the biggest selling point, more than a steelbook. When you have a physical, version of the music I can play, I love that. And then also strategy guidebook with behind the scenes content. And then some stickers, which is par for the course. But like for $80, I think that's pretty solid, honestly, for a game that is basically impossible to find unless you want to pay way too much for the Game Boy Advance version.
Yeah, that's way cheaper than the real thing.
Yeah, or you could just buy just the game physical for I think probably $40, which is maybe what I'll end up doing. I don't know.
I'm curious to know what these limited run re-releases do to the value of these really expensive games. I haven't really looked into it too deeply, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Has anyone been tracking Ninja 5.0's value?
If it makes a dent at all to the values of things like
Yeah.
So
You would
I can't
think.
imagine it makes too much of a dent, and the reason being is when it comes to cartridge games, you can almost always already get them in reproductions, and even though this is a legit reproduction, it's still a reproduction. So if I was to buy. So, I pre-ordered Shantae Advance. That never got an actual Game Boy Advance release. But if I was to buy it, I wouldn't be buying it with the idea of this is 100%. If it was actually like an official release at one point and it was really expensive, I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Say Shantae Advance got released and it was $2,000. I wouldn't be buying it and saying, this is replacing the $2,000 copy. I was saying this is good enough for me, and this is all I need. But I think the people who really care about getting a complete set or having the real thing will still spend that money on that stuff.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to complete a set, or if you actually like the game. That's the reason I'm actually got my eye on this, is because it's not just because the original version is rare and valuable. More because I know this game actually was received well, reviewed well. Everyone I've talked to that's played it, which is not many. Hello, Joel. They said it's a good game. So that's one of the reasons I've got my eye on it mostly, is I think it's a good collector's edition and it's supposed to be a good game, legitimately. Yeah. However, the main thing I've got my eye on is Metroid Prime Pinball. Is that the title? Didn't even look up the title.
On that so deep right now.
Getting Hunters just kind of brought it to my attention more. I got Hunters before it was in, maybe at a good time, a little bit late, but before it was, it could potentially skyrocket. Hunter, it sounds like Pinball's already over 100 CIB. You guys were saying
I think
probably
it's close to it at least.
It's attainable.
And I would question whether or not. So price charting, we've mentioned it before, is it's a great source for kind of getting an idea what something goes for, but it's never 100% accurate.
Yeah.
And when it comes to this game specifically, CIB would mean that it comes with the Rumble Pack, because when it came out originally, it came with that Rumble Pack. So if I would.
The Rumble Pack, which works in Hunters, by the way. Yeah. So that's a whole other reason for me to have my eye on it, because
did Pinball come out first?
It did. Yeah.
That's so weird.
So
I guess Prime came out first. So
yeah. I do think though, man, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
CIB.
Oh, I do think with that game specifically, a lot of people will sell it and say it's CIB. It's got the instructions. It's got the My Nintendo insert and everything. But it doesn't have the Rumble Pack. And even most people that might buy it might not know that came with it originally. So I do think that
was
CIB
that the first
price,
game? Was that the only game that included it?
As far as I know, you maybe could buy it separately, but I don't think any other game.
I mean,
came
that
with
also
it.
probably explains why it's a little higher than something. Well, much higher than something like Hunters was back before
I'm gonna look into it
the
a little
Nintendo
bit.
Direct. But it's definitely something that I have an affinity for. Anyways, we've talked about how much I love Pokemon Pinball, pinball games in general, and just pinball tables. I just love pinball. I got that a little bit from my dad. It's a love.
Sickness.
It's a sickness. I've never been able to quite shake it. I mean, I walk into an arcade and I literally just my body turns towards the pinball tables and I can't can't go anywhere else. I have to go to that first.
Magnetic pull.
I just love pinball tables.
I'm a pinball.
Yeah, at Portland Retro Game Con, I remember after I couldn't find you guys and I was pretty much done buying and looking, I went to the pinball tables and because they have just free to play, a bunch of tables there, which is really cool. And I was just like, I could just do this for hours. It's just so much fun.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, Metroid Prime Pinball is a pretty good game too.
You know I have it.
You have it?
Yeah.
Have you spent much time playing it at all?
Yeah, it's fun. I used to play it at work all the time when I worked at GameStop. I got it. I think the sticker's still on it. I think I got it for like $5 or $10. Ooh. I've had it for a long time.
Oof.
And I have the Rumble Pack and everything.
I'll give you 15 for it. I'm gonna profit $5.
That is more than I paid for. That's crazy.
I'll give you $20 for that and your entire collection of video games. What do you think, big boy?
That's a lot of. Oh man,
it's a lot of DS.
Yeah, it's a lot of DS.
I'm gonna go back real quick to your limited run conversation.
Oh sure, yeah.
So you said you wonder what it does to classic games.
If it all makes a dent.
Yeah. So one of the games we're going to talk about for the 64 segment here in a second is Worms Armageddon, and I won't get into it too much. But looking at the historic pricing for it, both complete in box and loose, it looks like it did affect the price of it quite a bit. About the time that the oops, I turned it off. About the time that the what am I trying to say? The limited, because the limited run did a port of it, a port of it, their own version of it, and about that time it did affect the complete in box price quite a bit. Actually, it was going for about $500 more than it's going for now.
Wow!
So
that's significant.
Yeah. So that's actually or maybe it's maybe more like $200 actually, but still. Because it doesn't have, if you see the graph, it doesn't have the numbers there, so I have to kind of guess it.
Oh, yeah.
But it's about $200, and the loose price looks like it went down probably like $20 to $50 according to this. So it did affect it. I wouldn't say it was dramatic.
Right.
The complete in box price was probably a decent amount, but that means there are probably collectors who are like, yeah, that's definitely good enough. Like,
yeah,
I'll take that, and I have the game on my shelf complete in box. And maybe they were then like, okay, I'll get a loose copy to then like I have the loose copy, so my collection's complete, but I also have this version complete in box. So like it's, I don't know. Like,
it just makes sense that the demand for it would go down once they give like this new like.
I think the best example of that would be NCAA football that's happening right now, because NCAA football 14 on PS3 and 360 has historically for years been an expensive game. We talked about it on the 360 episode, but they just are right now are releasing
25.
A new NCAA football game for the first time in 10 years.
Yep.
Are they going to make it good though?
I don't know. I mean,
for people from what I can tell, from people that have been clamoring for it, it's like. Finally, but is it going to be incredible? Is it going to be like head and shoulders above Madden, which was already stale for some people? Probably not. It's EA.
Okay, I don't have much confidence.
EA rarely goes above and beyond to do much more than they've already done the year before. And that's. I mean, like I love Madden. Like I love Madden. I could pick up any Madden and have a blast playing it. And they're fun games. They're fundamentally. I think they're fundamentally solid games. The mechanics, they've worked on them for decades, literally, and so they try to polish them and make each year's entry look a little bit better, or they tweak things, but like fundamentally they change very little. But they're decent games, by and large. They just don't change them up or shake it up. So
yeah, I do. I think just back to the NCAA football thing. I do think now I rock a Teller suit. I believe he posted in the Discord. It might have been ours, maybe it was the Bird Dog one, but like a graph of the price dropping on it.
It's already dropping?
Oh, it's not even just dropped. Remember when we did the episode, it was like $110, $120?
Yeah.
I'll show you guys the graph, which people listening can't see that. See the graph, but it, like I said, it was easily over $100 just a few months ago. And this isn't the time where 360 games are skyrocketing, but look at the graph.
I'll make a sound effect.
That's like, this is reminding me of those graphs at the end of a game of Mario Party where you're like, oh, I had 3 stars and 150 coins, and then and then I lost.
Now I have none. Yeah, it went from over 100 to under 50 now. So that's a pretty steep drop. So, but also, we talked about it on the episode. This game was not rare. There was so many copies of this on eBay. Yep. It was by no means rare. So it shows that the demand was, I guess, I don't know, collectors and football fans like that wanted it. I don't know, because
If you were smart and you had like many copies of this game, your window to sell it was right when you started hearing any rumblings of the fact of like the NCAA meeting to
Yeah.
consider like NIL for players and giving them money. You should have been like, oh gosh, I better sell. I better sell.
I hope you didn't believe that would only make the price go up.
Yeah. Too late.
All right. So is that it for
That's
what
it.
you've got your eyes on?
That's it.
All right, Jaden, let's end. I've got my eye on you with you.
I really don't got too much, but talking with you guys tonight made me realize, like, I forgot about Prime. I do need Prime Hunters for DS.
Oh, guys,
Another convert.
Guys, we don't need to download Play. We can all have our own copy.
Dude, yeah, it is best with multiple
I bet
copies.
that if you only have one copy, there's a restriction. There's
Limited-
always
limited-
some
I
restriction.
think you
That
can only
makes
play
sense.
as Samus, I want to
Yeah.
say.
So limited content then if it's
Yeah.
download
Yeah.
Play.
But if you have your own cartridge, you can play as the other
Gosh,
hunters.
I'm
And
bringing
like,
it back.
Silex is
Like
so much
I
fun.
want to just drop everything right now and just play that game with you guys.
Okay, sorry guys. We're
be
we're
right.
ending
Gotta
the
go.
episode
Bye.
now. Hope you enjoyed this.
No, yeah. So yeah, Prime Hunters, like I said, that's been one that I've just held off for the longest time. So
Now's the time, baby.
yeah, now
This
it's
is going
time-
the opposite
it's a
direction of
weird time
NCAA.
to- yeah,
James is trying to make it spike.
everyone wants it. No, I want it. No, things like that. Also, the crew, even if it doesn't do anything. So does it really just has? You can't do anything with the disc now.
You can't quote me on that, but I believe I saw people on Reddit talking about how like it closing down the servers made the game like a coaster.
Dang.
Um,
Well, I've heard the
I'm not
song,
laughing.
so it's all good.
Jaden looks crushed right now. His body language is like defeated.
It's fine. I know what the
I'm
song sounds like.
fine.
It's not like I don't have access to the song that I love that's in the game. That and probably I'd say like SSX Tricky for Xbox because I was looking at gameplay on it and I think the textures are a lot better than the PS2 and GameCube versions, which I also have because I'm that crazy.
he's a crazy boy.
I'd also pick up SSX 3 for Xbox because that is backwards compatible for the Series X, so you could play that. At
That's
like,
cool. I didn't. Sorry, everybody.
She wants to play SSX with you too.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I'll show you the way. But other than that, yeah, not much. Just kind of busy this summer, so not going hunting as often. But
Yeah, it's better to be busy and having fun. Except for hunting is part of my fun. So
no, yeah, I get it. I just
Would you call yourself
not.
a hunter?
Prime?
Prime hunter.
sure. That was a good try. Go to bed.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, well, let's go ahead now. We've talked about what we have our eye on. Let's go ahead and move into the main topic. So, like I mentioned at the outset of the episode, for episode 64, we're going to talk about Nintendo 64 games again. So this time we're going to talk about the most rare and expensive ones according to price charting. Now, I will say this. I'm going to give a couple of disclaimers here. Mainly, we're going to be talking about complete in box because it's always what we focus on a little bit more when we do these episodes. But anybody who has any interest in buying Nintendo 64 games, collecting for the Nintendo 64, there is a huge differential between loose games and complete in box games.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And I wrote down prices for each game on this list, loose and complete in box, just to kind of give an idea of that. But it is the price difference can be literally like astronomically different, like 75 to 90% different between complete and box and loose.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is absolutely nuts. And something else too, we mentioned this a little bit when we were talking about Metroid Prime Pinball, but I do believe a lot of the prices on this list are very skewed. The complete in box price, doing some deeper, I didn't feel like actually doing like the work and the math to like pinpoint pricing, but I noticed a lot of like, this game says it's worth this much money, but then I'm looking at even the recently sold ones according to price charting, and I'm like, that this number doesn't add up to even what they say was recently sold. And then like I look at the listings on eBay and they're all higher, but that all I'm gonna say is this is just a fun aspect to talk about.
We may have to reconsider how we price or consider pricing things for older consoles like this, maybe for that reason, but like it's usually pretty consistent with newer stuff like Switch, PS4, PS5 stuff. But
They don't even have manuals nowadays.
Yeah, there's less to consider it complete. Yeah, this is a crazy console, and if you ever wanted to get into complete and box collecting for it, you're in for a wild, expensive ride.
Going straight to bankrupt city.
Yeah, it's got I mean, for how small of a library it is. It was 297. Is that right? Like we looked it up for the last Nintendo 64 episode. It's a small library, but it's got to be one of the most expensive. Like,
Yeah.
some of the games on this list are crazy expensive. CIB, yes, loose, but some of them loose are still really expensive. But
Yeah.
CIB, crazy expensive.
Yeah.
And just a little backstory for anybody listening, for myself. I don't know how much I've talked about this on the podcast in the past, but I probably in the early 2010s, around 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there. I was before I was married. I went to a really heavy Nintendo 64 collecting phase. It was actually what got me back into collecting. I've had phases where I've been really into collecting, but that was one of my hardest, where I was actually going to go for a complete set of Nintendo 64 games. And back then, prices were not this crazy. And I was only going for loose, but still, this is a spoiler, but everybody knows the Sculptor's Cut is the most expensive game on this list. We'll talk about it more later, but it goes for just loose like $1,000 now. Even back then, it was only like $200.
Yeah.
And that was crazy.
Yep.
So yeah, times have changed. This console has blown up, and historically, it's also probably one of the ones that has not aged the best. To a lot of people, but it has a lot of really good games. So let's go ahead. We're going to start with number 10. I'm going to mute my microphone so I can go make my dog stop barking and have James start with number 10, which is...
Number 10, Daikatana. So I did not know a thing about this game when I first started looking into it. Had you, Jaden?
No, sounds rad though.
Honestly, it looks kind of
I
rad.
need to see what a picture of this looks like.
Daikatana is a first-person shooter. You might call it a first-person slasher. Here's the reason why.
Yo.
You are a player that controls a swords master who travels through various time periods using the Daikatana, a powerful sword tied to the fate of the world. So this game was developed by Ion Storm. It was published by Eidos for PC, and then Kemco for Nintendo 64. So the Nintendo 64 version, from what I understand, was a port of the PC version. This is infamously considered a bad game by people. One of the worst first-person shooters, allegedly. But, I mean, that depends on who you ask. I watched a number of videos, and some people have, some fondness for this because of the ambition. Like, there was an ambitious vision for this game, but then people are like, it's not that great, though. It wasn't that well executed. Apparently, the AI... There's a sidekick character that travels with you the entire game, and you're basically relying on really, really bad AI to get you through the game, and so apparently it's very frustrating. Yeah. So again, this is a first-person shooter / first-person slasher because it's a sword master. It was released in May of 2000, so kind of right before the GameCube era.
Yeah, around a year out.
Yeah. Again, generally negative reviews. It only sold 40,000 plus copies, becoming one of the biggest major commercial failures of the video game industry at the time. Apparently, due to the negative response, there was a Game Boy Color version in the works, but it never came to North America.
Oh.
I believe it got a PAL version, and definitely Japan got a version of it, which many people, from what I read, say the Game Boy Color version is way better than this game. So. Yeah, watch a video. Honestly, the game to me, it doesn't look that bad. I was watching it thinking this looks kind of fun, maybe, but I do definitely have a nostalgia for first-person shooters in the N64 era, so that's probably why. But I'm sure you put this next to Perfect Dark and you'd be like, oh, this is bad. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
probably gameplay wise, because visuals, it looks amazing.
Yeah,
it looks as rad as the title sounds.
I thought so too. I didn't think it looked that bad.
What's wrong?
People complained about the visuals, apparently, though, from what I read. So I don't know. Sounds like the gameplay itself there were issues with more than the visuals and
I can
stuff
see
like
that
that.
being
But
the case.
anyways, complete in box, Daikatana goes for $387.46 according to price charting. I didn't see what's a loose copy for. Let me guess. You have a loose copy price? Mm-hmm. I'm guessing the loose copy price is something like $90.
That was your guess?
That's my guess.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
Are you for real?
Yeah.
Let's go, dude!
That wasn't a guess.
I am pumped.
Yeah, it's written down.
All I have is CIB prices. I was a little bit lazy when it came to writing down prices for this episode. Sorry, guys, but But that's what we got, Chris.
I will say, I don't know if you mentioned this because I did get up, but I don't think I heard it. One of the big things about this game, why people were hyped about it, was that it was created by John Romero.
Oh, that's right.
And
I heard that.
He's the most well known for being the creator of Doom, which up until this point was probably one of the most influential first-person shooters, and still is one of the most influential first-person shooters of all time.
Yeah.
So the hype around the game was very strong because, you know, the guy made Doom, and everybody was like, oh, we can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah, it's like when a Kojima game comes out, people are like, oh, this has got to be good because it's Kojima.
Yeah, that's kind of what the mindset was. Like, Doom was fantastic. This is going to be great, but then it apparently just wasn't. I don't know. I felt like I remember reading that this was a Blockbuster exclusive at one point, but I just did a quick look and I couldn't find that, so I could be wrong.
Yeah.
It's so hard to keep track of all these dumb Blockbuster exclusive games.
It's surprising how many there are.
Yeah, there's way too many.
Yeah, honestly, like you said, the name and the way the game looks, just looking at a brief couple videos, I was kind of like, I would probably play this.
You know, I know what's interesting is I have heard a couple of people recently mention this game and how much they love this game. Like they'll even be like, yes, it's not great, but there's this something about it that I really like. I've heard it come up a couple times recently. So it's not to say maybe it is worth playing. I don't know. Maybe, you know, things change with age. Like you can go back to something and appreciate it differently now than back then. Because it might still be a bad first person game, but might have some charm that
The story
wasn't seeable there.
The story sounded interesting to me, and it being set in different periods of time, and some of them in Japan. Like, it just seems to be interesting. But yeah, that's all I got.
All right. So that was number 10. So number 9 on the list is Transformers Beast Wars Transmetal. Quite the title here. So for each of the I guess I'll go back to this too. For each of these games, I looked up on eBay how many copies they were to try to get an idea of how rare they are, if this is really the going price still. And like I said, I found some. It really varies for a lot of these games. The listings can go all over the place, and some say complete, but then there's obviously stuff missing that for the true CIB collectors would not consider it complete. Like inserts and stuff like that. But like Daikatana had around 10 copies CIB, quite a few loose copies, so there was a lot of it on there. Transformers Beast Wars also, I felt like I saw quite a few. There was over 10 complete in box, quite a few loose. It was probably, out of all the titles on the list, it was the one I felt like I saw the most of overall.
Oh, wow.
So definitely not the rarest. I'm not going to say it's super common or anything, but definitely not the rarest game. But this game was I believe the first on this list to have had the distinction of being a Blockbuster exclusive game. So when it came out, when it came out in December of '99, you could not go to the store and buy it. You had to go to Blockbuster to rent it if you wanted to play it. I mean, a lot of people who listen to the podcast probably can remember renting video games, rental places and stuff like that, Hollywood Video, Blockbuster. But for those who don't know, in the late 90s, games were actually pretty expensive. Like, now we complain about them going up to $70, and that is expensive. But if you look at it, like a Toys R Us ad from the 90s, 64 games were like $70 to $90.
Yeah.
Like, now I know why my parents didn't buy me games that often. Like, I think I don't know why they balanced out and got so cheap in the 2000s. Maybe it's because they went to disc.
Discs.
It was cheaper to produce.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
But man, 64 games were expensive.
It makes me really appreciate how much money my dad spent on video games for us as a kid.
It helped that he wanted to play them too.
Yeah.
So that makes
he
difference.
probably wasted a lot of money.
If we had kids, our kids would have a lot of video games by default.
That's fair.
But yeah, so if you wanted to play a game most of the time, your parents would rent it for you. So Blockbuster getting these exclusives, it kind of made sense for them. Like, it was a nice bonus to get people into store to rent a game they might be excited about that they could not go to, Toys R Us or Target to buy. So it was a Toys R Us exclusive, but did eventually
Blockbuster exclusive?
Yes, sorry, Blockbuster exclusive, but did eventually get a second printing later on that went to retail. So for collectors, there are, from what I could tell, two different boxes. There is one that says Blockbuster exclusive on it, and one that does not have it. And on eBay, I very distinctly saw two different boxes that both seemed to be real boxes. Multiple times I saw these boxes that had one that would have it, one that wouldn't. I would assume the Blockbuster exclusive version would be more expensive because by default, a lot of those boxes probably got destroyed, or didn't make it to the sales floor. But anyway, so there's some of the reason why this game is a little bit more expensive, because I'm sure that second printing wasn't probably the biggest, but it was their way to try to recoup some of the sales they didn't get from it being a rental. So what this game is a 3D fighter based off of the Transformers Beast Wars series specifically. So instead of Optimus Prime and Megatron, you have Optimus Primal and Megazord, I believe is the other one. And there's all kinds of them. I've never watched Beast Wars, so I don't have a lot of familiarity with it. I've watched some Transformers, but it's definitely not something I've ever really been into. But I did watch some videos on this game, and I will say the game did not get very good reviews, and it seems like they were probably fair, because the game does not look very good. From the videos, it looks very mediocre. But it does have some cool features, like each character or each Transformer you can play as has the gimmick that they can change between a robot, a beast, and a vehicle in a battle. And it seems like you have to do that to truly kind of get like the right cycle. Because when you're a robot, you run out of energy, so you have to change to a beast. And when you're the beast, you're not as strong. So once you get the energy back, you have to move to the vehicle so that you can, avoid stuff. It seems very convoluted. Overall, I don't know. I don't know that this game is anywhere near a must play. It's one of the, unlike Daikatana, where the reviews were bad, but you guys watched the videos and you're like, okay, this actually looks kind of fun. This is weird. Mm-hmm. The reviews were bad for this, and I did not see this and look at this as a game that I felt like I had any need to play. There was also a version of this game on PS1 that's way cheaper, but also very different. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the YouTube channel, or I guess YouTube personality, the immortal John Hancock. He's a collector and a gamer. He's actually local, based out of somewhere in Washington State.
Oh, nice.
And he did a video that I found while I was looking for videos on this, where he did a side-by-side comparison of the 64 version and the PS1 version, kind of showing the differences and stuff. And the PS1 version definitely looks better. Not just graphically, but the gameplay looks better. The character select screen looks better. The start menu looks better. I don't know. It looks like they spent more time on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Overall, though, this is not a game that I feel like anybody should spend their money on. I can't imagine any 64 collectors are going for this game and are actually going to play it. It would just be a filler for a complete collection.
Yeah.
But because I haven't said it yet, the price for this game is $112 loose and $753 on average complete in box. So I'm sure there's some differential there for that number, depending on if it's the blockbuster or the non-blockbuster variant.
Yeah.
But I didn't look enough to be able to figure that out. But yeah.
Yeah. From 10 to 9, you're nearly double the price for CIB.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it was surprising to me that number 10 was actually that low compared to how high some of these other ones are already. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a pretty big gap there. So that was number 9. Jaden, why don't you hit us with number 8? Crazy.
Number 8, we got September 2000's Rat Attack. Rat-a-tat. Yeah. I think Rat-a-tat, like the band.
Yeah.
The title, Rat Attack. I wonder if that's like kind of like an ape escape type of thing they were going for. Speaking of Ape Escape, this was also on PlayStation. It's a lot cheaper there, but for 64, we're looking at $64. Loose CIB, $775. So
oof, that's a huge differential between
box,
loose and CIB.
Yeah, something about Nintendo cardboard people say is gold. So hang on to Nintendo cardboard, especially for a game like Rat Attack in this case. So this is like, it's described, or the videos that I was watching, they describe it as a puzzler. It looked more like an action type game. So I didn't quite see how it was a puzzle game, but maybe it is. You lasso up like rats, like when you drag your mouse across like your desktop like screen, you can make the little square. You're doing that with the cat. So you're not. For some reason, I thought you'd be the rat attacking, but no, the rats are attacking you. Oh, you're a cat. You're trying to like lasso up the rats, mutant rats.
So this is really a cat game.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, a little misleading. So,
rat fans were livid when they bought this game.
Yeah, but like I said, yeah, it's also on PlayStation, and it's only like $7, $15
Wow.
CIB.
Yeah.
So if you're a diehard Rat Attack fan, well, you probably already have this game. But
Yeah.
if you're a fan and you don't have this game, get it for PlayStation
Yeah.
probably because you're not missing much. There is a little bit of new content in the 64 version, but from what I saw, it didn't look like you were missing much. Especially what $700 worth.
Yeah.
You'll live. So yeah, third party 64 games already kind of had it hard enough, and on top of that, this being a game that even wasn't really reviewed that great, like 6 out of 10s back in the day, it probably wasn't flying off the shelves. So it had that on top of it. So
Yeah.
that's Rat Attack.
Yeah. I think it's funny that like you mentioned, you can get the PS1 copy for about $15 complete.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to get the 64 copy, it's $7.75, like you mentioned. So for the price of a PS1, probably 2 controllers, the Rat Attack game, and you could probably even get you could get Suikoden 2, you could get like a bunch of rare like top titles on PS. I'm just throwing this out there on PS1, and you probably still would be under the price it cost you to just get Rat Attack complete in box on 64. That is nuts.
To some people,
Nope.
Rat Attack is.
Give
I
me
keep
more.
saying Rat Attack.
Give me more rat attack. Give me more rat attack.
And just to kind of talk about the rarity a little bit, there was only about 5 or 6 copies that were CIB on eBay. And on these 64 games, I will probably give some roundabout numbers sometimes because I couldn't tell by some of them if they were actually complete or just close to it. But yeah, it looked like about 5 or 6, and there weren't a lot of loose copies. So this was, out of the 3 games we've went over so far, definitely the most rare seeming. Like there's not a lot on eBay, less than 10 copies total, I think. So. All right, so let's move on to number 7. So this is one. So back in my 64 collecting days, there were some games that were known to be the more expensive, more obscure games already, and this is one of the ones that was already more expensive. Back then, 12, 13 years ago, it wasn't this expensive, but it was definitely more expensive. So this is Bomberman 64 Second Attack. Loose, it goes for about $222. Complete in box, it goes for $877. So it's an expensive one loose, an expensive one complete in box.
It's a really expensive loose game, honestly.
Yep. And for the eBay comparison, from what I could see, there was only 1 copy on eBay that was complete in box. I will say there were some of these games that had new like WATA graded versions and stuff, but I'm not didn't consider those. They're way overpriced.
Yeah.
But yeah, 1 complete in box copy, and there were a handful of loose copies, but not many. It definitely wasn't a lot of copies of this game on there. So this game was published by Hudson Soft, and it came out May 2000. And it was a direct sequel to the previously released Bomberman 64. And from what I understand, Bomberman 64 was pretty well received. People really liked it, so it seemed like a no-brainer to do a sequel to it. But when this game came out, it ended up getting pretty mid-meddling reviews as being more of the same, nothing too unique. Bomberman was at this point, 10 plus years old, and had released quite a few games across all the different consoles he'd appeared on, and was falling into the being the victim of sameness. And I think people were just kind of getting a little bored with it. It did sound like the single player was all right. Like it was it had a decent story and a couple of decent beats to it, but nothing crazy good. And the multiplayer, if you like Bomberman, you'll like it. But their problem with it was just more of the same, and they just didn't give you enough reason to buy. They didn't feel like there was enough reason to buy this one when you already have Bomberman 64 or another way to play Bomberman. So overall, the game did not sell very, very well. And because it was a late release title on the 64 coming out just about a year before the GameCube did, it never got another printing after its failed first run. Though yeah, I believe on Metacritic and the different rating sites, it was right around that 55%. So definitely not considered great.
It's one of those games I could see just being kind of a downgrade from the 16-bit era. This type of game, because I was looking at gameplay of it, and I love Super Bomberman 2. I played on the Super Nintendo all the time. And then watching gameplay of this, it being 3D and like you move so slowly by comparison.
Yeah,
it just
What does
is
it
like,
really add?
Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, it's 3D now, but it moves like really slow and it's not that pretty. So
Yeah, I think that's the
unfortunate.
problem right there. Is it just was a downgrade overall in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, and like in comparison, Bomberman on the Sega Saturn is supposed to be like one of the best ones, and that was only a few years before this.
is that the 10-player one?
Yeah, and I think it was the 10-player, and the sprite work is beautiful. Like it's just Bomberman probably worked best in that 2D realm of like hand drawn sprites and colorful landscapes. But I would be curious to play. I mean, I'd probably just try to play Bomberman 64 because it's a lot cheaper, I would assume. But I'd be curious to play it because I don't know that I've ever played them. And I like the 64. I like the 4-player ease of the 64. It'd be fun to give it a go, but not for $220 loose or $877 complete.
Steep.
All right. Why don't we move on to number 6? And that one is back to Jaden.
Number 6, March 2000s. Another late 64 games. I'm starting to notice a pattern here.
Yeah.
We got Worms Armageddon, which is the third entry in the Worms series. So this was really big on PC. And this also, so Worms Armageddon was also on PC. There was also a PlayStation and a Dreamcast version. The 64 version, well, it's on this list. So loose, we're going for $195. CIB, $978. So yeah, it was just one of those things, a limited production run, and the fact that they were so successful on PC that they decided not to make a ton for N64, and considering the N64 cartridges cost so much compared to pressing a CD, so you can't blame them for not making too many copies. I mean, I'm really surprised they made any at all if they were gonna decide not to make too much of them. So just not that many out there. I hear it's like decent. Worms Armageddon itself is solid, and on 64 it's perfectly fine. It's just weren't that many made.
Yeah, that's too bad. I remember playing the Worms games when I was a kid, and I thought they were fun. Like kind of weird, a little chaotic. Using the different weapons to just blow up the landscape and try to kill the other worms. But yeah, I've never really played one. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, this game did get a limited run reprint, which did affect the value. It was going for like at least $1,200 before.
Oh wow!
So it's dropped down a little bit.
So it might have been higher on this list then.
By over 200.
No, it wouldn't have been any higher on the list.
Oh really? Oh
yeah,
boy.
it would have been exactly where it is because it's still lower than the next one, CIB. But it did affect it a little bit, but that also made it hard to like pinpoint the eBay listings. I couldn't really tell. I think I counted about 7 complete copies and a handful of loose, but it was hard to like fish through all the limited run ones, and because there's a ton on there now, but most of them are limited run. And the box looks very similar. So I was like, I don't want to click on every one. Yeah. So I just tried to go with the ones that looked the most clear. But I don't know. I'd like to play a Worms game. This is one that if I was to ever buy, I'd probably buy it on Dreamcast, where I could play it 4-player, but a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Dreamcast had really good third-party ports.
Mm-hmm, it did. All right. So now we're going to move on to number 5. And this is an interesting one. A lot of times when we do these lists, we leave off like collector's editions and stuff like that. But the 64 didn't really have a lot of those, but did have some unique variants. And I just kind of felt like this one was too cool to avoid or to leave off. Like I wanted to talk about it. So it is number 5th most expensive game on the list. So why not talk about it? And this is Rampage 2 Universal Tour, but specifically the big box variant. So anybody who's not familiar, Rampage as a series has been around for a very long time, since the mid-'80s. And the whole premise is you play as one of the different giant mutated animals or creatures, and you go through and you destroy a city, you eat people, and you get points based off the destruction that you wreak. Mm-hmm. In the late 2010s, there was a fantastic movie starring The Rock based off the series. I mean, maybe it wasn't fast. It wasn't fantastic. I saw it. It was just okay.
I completely forgot there was a movie based off.
Maybe
Rampage.
people liked it. But overall, they were dumb fun. Like, I think that's the best way to explain it. Like, I remember playing maybe this one. Like I remember playing one on 64.
I remember playing Rampage World Tour at home a lot, actually.
Yeah, and it was fun. It was mindless because you could play it 3-player.
Yeah.
And you just literally go through. You'd break down a building, and if somebody popped out the window, you'd grab them and eat them, and it would restore some health.
I remember stepping on little ant-sized people and
Yeah.
be like,
It's
that's
probably
funny.
pretty sick, actually.
Yeah,
but,
probably.
but yeah, so that's what the game is. So there was just a standard retail release for this game.
Yeah.
and that version isn't that expensive. It's like I think $50 to $100, complete in box.
Mm-hmm.
And cartridge only of this game is super cheap because it's $15-$20. It's not expensive, but this game isn't considered rare necessarily at all. What is considered rare is this variant. So like I said, it's a big box variant, and what it was it would come packaged with one of 3 exclusive plush keychains. It was only one of the 3, and it was random. I don't think you knew what you got until you opened the box, but it showed on the back of the box what the 3 were, and they were George, Lizzie, and Ralph, who I believe were a monkey, some kind of amphibian, like a lizard or
The
something.
green guy on the cover.
Yeah, and rat. I believe were what they were. So you got one of those 3 plush keychains. Through the research I did, through watching some other videos, it sounded like this was probably a Walmart exclusive. So which would be why it wasn't like crazy a lot of them out there. There were none listed on eBay. There were a couple of the game with the big box, but without the keychain, still going for a lot of money. But with no keychain, there was not one single copy listed on eBay with the keychain. And because I haven't mentioned it yet, Price Charting has this listed at $1,500. If you were to find it complete in box with the keychain. What I find interesting though is Price Charting's last 2 sold listings are $1,500 and $3,000.
So it's going down.
So, I mean, and that could be backwards. I don't remember which one was more recent. But those were the 2 most recent. So, and that was over the last 3 years. So that alone says the average price of this should be like $2,250. If they're just going off of that.
Weird.
But because then those are the only 2 on Price Charting too. So they don't have like a historic like list of 10 years worth. It's just those 2. So in doing,
What year did this come out again?
I forgot to write it down. I think it was 98 though.
90. This is like taking me back because I'm just trying to think like what are my earliest memories of Walmart? If this is supposed to be a Walmart exclusive, like I remember there was a time where the closest and the only Walmart I was aware of was the one on South Hill in Puyallup, like that was even close to somebody in Tacoma. And like there was a time where Walmart wasn't even like in my like in our mindscape, you know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden it was like this seems pretty early, like for something to have a Walmart exclusive, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exclusive. I mean, I was young, so I don't know how much I was paying attention to exclusives, but I remember going to Walmart at this point.
Do you?
Yeah, in my life, I remember going to the McDonald's and Walmart and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know that we got a lot of games at Walmart, but yeah, it came out March 30th, 98. So it was.
That's crazy.
But yeah, and like I said, from what I could tell, that's just from what I could tell. Like it could have been released at other companies. It doesn't say Walmart exclusive, but the only like proof. So one of the people that I looked at his videos is Sick Cooper, and he has a YouTube channel called Sick Cooper. He also does the Double Jump video game YouTube channel. He owns the store down in Vancouver. He has a complete 64 collection, and he's going for every variant and every like random thing on the Nintendo 64. He considers it one of his favorite consoles of all time.
Respect.
And he has this big box, and he has 2 of the keychains. When he bought his big box, he got it with one of them, and he bought a second keychain loose off somebody. I don't remember. But yeah, his copy that he has, it's open and everything, but it does have a Walmart sticker on it. And he was saying that from everything he's ever seen, like he can't prove that it wasn't a Walmart exclusive, and that might be why it's so rare. But yeah, it's super random. I truly, even just given the prices of the game and box that was on eBay, they're all over this $1,500 price. I don't believe that it's actually only $1,500 CIB. I think it's probably a lot more expensive.
Interesting.
But that's what it's written down at, so that's where I ranked it and what I'm leaving it at for now. But I guess what I'm getting at is if you really want this game and you go to a store and they have it listed for this price and it has the keychain, you're probably getting a good deal, I guess. I mean, I don't know what you consider a good deal, but, if you're looking for it, that's probably the price to buy it at.
To have like something like plushy keychains packed in though, that does feel like something that would happen at a Walmart or like a department store. You know what I'm saying? This was before like collector's editions, so like, yeah, that's very interesting.
And it's random too because I believe back then it was pretty common to still give pre-order bonuses. You know, give a little item or something they'd hand out. It's just crazy that this was it was a big box that came with it packaged in there.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Like it's very unique, but very interesting. I mean, I have something in the honorable mentions I'm going to mention too that's kind of similar to this. But yeah, that's number 5. Rampage 2 Universal Tour, the big box variant, averages at about apparently $1,500 complete in box. But if you just want to play the game, you don't care about the keychain, you can probably get it for like 20.
It's off the keychain.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
He's here all night, folks. All right, why don't you hit us with number 4, Jaden? Right? Are you number 4?
Is that Super Bowling?
Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah. 2000 is the year we got Super Bowling. Looking at the cover of this one, it really does not look like anything special. Like it just looked like one of those just cheap shovelware. Look at that. That doesn't look.
It's bad.
Yeah, they're like rainbow colored bowling pins.
Yeah, you're like, okay, what's the deal with this one? It's probably only sold in like one store or whatever. But so this is a remake of a Super Nintendo game apparently. And hence why it probably has the name Super in the title. But yeah, like I said, real ugly cover. But I was surprised when I saw this, like the gameplay of it. It's developed by Kindle Imagine Develop, so KID. Yeah, I guess there's nothing notable that they've done that I know. But like I was watching the gameplay of it, and it looked like pretty good. Like for a bowling game, because you know what to expect with the bowling game. You're in a bowling alley, you knock down the pins. But this one had like characters that looked like they were. They looked like specific. They almost looked like Capcom or like.
Like there's actually thought put into the detail.
Or
yeah.
like, it's like, is this a character from something? No, they just made. Okay, it's like an anime guy, anime girl. They have like a penguin character you can play as. Like it gets really wacky, and then they have like different stages. They have one where it's like a creepy like haunted house type of aesthetic going on, or there's like an icy level, or another one with like water in it, or like in a forest. And so like, and each of these like different lanes have like different, your ball reacts differently to like the ground. So it's like, oh, they added more to bowling. Yeah. Why is bowling so simple? It's just the same thing every time. But like they decided to like do something with it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't think it's worth loose right now is $481.
Yikes.
Complete in box. $1,773.
Ouchie.
So, yeah, the thing is, this was rumored to be a rental store exclusive, kind of like what we've been talking about. Oh, Blockbuster or this and that. But that's not. I don't think anyone's actually confirmed that from what I can look into. But apparently, it's been said to have always been really hard to find. I think a YouTube video I was watching, I think the first one that pops up when you search this game, he mentioned that even like IGN trying to review this game, they said like they had to like go to multiple stores to find a copy to review. So just a rare, obscure bowling game. And yeah, the year 2000, it was just at the edge, the tail end of the 64's life. So just a recipe for a rarity, I guess, for this system.
Makes sense.
It's so weird to me that they decided to remake a Super Nintendo game like 5 years later. That, from what I can tell, wasn't that like didn't sell that well before.
I think they call it like Bowling 64 or something. They just kept Super Bowling. It's the exact same
I
title.
don't want to change
I
anything.
hear Super Bowling, and I'm thinking of like
Football.
players in the Super Bowl, like playing the game, and I'm like, they're Super Bowling. I don't know.
Yeah, I tried to. So I looked it up, the eBay search, and there were about 5 complete copies.
Oh wow.
And a few loose ones. Not a lot, but kind of in the middle there of the more rare games. But yeah, I also tried to look up because you read that it's a Blockbuster exclusive, but then you can't find anything that verifies that. It doesn't say it on the box. But trying to type in Super Bowling, Blockbuster exclusive gets you a lot of Blockbuster Super Bowl ads. Like it is you saying.
There you
that.
go. People know what they want.
Yeah, this is
Not bowling.
So back in the day when I was collecting 64 games, this was one that I never heard of. I had no idea this game existed. I wish I would have bought it back then because 13 years ago it was still only like $10-15. It's a game that has seen a dramatic increase in price. But yep, so that was number 4. Now we're on to number 3.
Number 3, which is F1 Racing Championship. Now this I had struggled really hard to find any information on this game.
I tried to in case you had trouble finding it, and it was hard to find stuff.
I'm glad you did. I doubt we're gonna have a whole lot of differing opinions or thoughts on it, but from what I could gather, and most of the information I could find, there was one video that kind of had a brief reference to its history. There was most of it was like Reddit posts and like comments and forums where people are talking about it that either own the game or are searching for it. But sounds like there was a period of time long ago where collectors were only aware of a PAL version of this game. It sounds like, from what I could gather. But then at some point, it came into their collective consciousness that there was a actual limited print of this game that came from Brazil.
Yeah, that's what I found too.
Of all places. So there was a version exclusive to Brazil, and guess what? Apparently, it's an NTSC-U version of this game, meaning it could run on a North American N64. So all of a sudden, people that were going for collection, a North American collection of N64 games, all of a sudden that this game you didn't even know before now has a version you can play on your system. And because of that, it's very, very rare because apparently its origin point is Brazil for whatever reason. I'm not surprised that people only thought this had a PAL version initially because, again, F1 was not that big a deal until recently in the United States or North America. There wasn't that big a viewership or a collective care for it until really like the last decade, I would say. So yeah, used to be a PAL's only game. Guess it wasn't. Also in Brazil. And so people are trying to get the game that came from Brazil to play on their North American N64. That's the TLDR of it. And a CIB version is $1,958, nearly $2K. And I would imagine it goes for more than that just based on just the story, the limited information I have on this game.
Yeah.
Being a Brazil exclusive game.
Yeah. And the only thing that I had to add that you didn't is that from what I could tell, according to the historic pricing on price charting, this game they have only known this truly existed for the last like 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Because there's not much to go on.
Yeah, like it is. It's like just overnight, everyone's like, wow, this exists. And I can't imagine certain collectors were scrambling, pouring through, I don't know what.
Driving
what are you
to
gonna
Brazil.
Do? Yeah, I gotta go to Brazil. This is Brazil. I don't like. What do you like? Yeah, what are you gonna do? Like, you don't speak Portuguese, so I don't. That would be a tough one. Like, where do you go to get connections or find this game? And I think from what I saw in price charting, there was only one sold in the last year. So how accurate is this price? Probably not that accurate, like you were saying about Super Bowling, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But it probably would be a lot more expensive to buy this game CIB if you wanted to.
Yeah, there were a couple on eBay, complete in box, but they're way over that price. They were like $4,000. So they weren't sold, obviously. They were just sitting there. But
yeah.
And it looked like there were a few loose copies as well, but the cover of this was kind of hard to tell to differentiate from another F1 game.
Yeah.
So I wasn't positive. But the complete in box ones were obviously the game. But yeah, none of them were listed at this, right around $2,000 price range. They're all way higher.
Yeah.
But yeah,
kind of interesting.
One? Yeah,
it's just weird that, like, there was no knowledge of it until all of a sudden and just relatively recently, like you're saying. It's very strange.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It definitely something I had never heard of or realized before. When I saw this on the list, most of the games on this list I was familiar with, either from before or recent years, but that was the one on this list. That and Rat Attack were the two, I guess the two on the list where I was like, I don't know anything about these games.
Yeah. But again, not super surprising that there was no American edition that we were aware of because, again, F1 wasn't a big deal to people here. It just wasn't. It is now, but wasn't then.
It is?
It's pretty big now.
Wasn't there an F1 game on the Xbox 360 episode too?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of slowly crept up, and like it had there was a Netflix show recently that really like skyrocketed the interest and eyeballs on F1 in America.
That is very interesting.
And now America hosts a bunch of races. Like there's one in Las Vegas. I think there's one in Miami. So like it's a big deal now.
If I was going for a full N64 set, I would not include this.
Yeah, that's what people were
and
saying.
I would not be bothered by that.
And that's what people were saying. That people were like, I can't. I wouldn't blame anyone either. It didn't come from. It wasn't technically sold here, but the fact that you can play it on your N64, like that would kind of knot me, honestly, if I was going for a complete collection of N64 games.
It's hard. It's like going for the 3DS set and that Barbie Groom and Glam Pups. Like that wasn't released in the United States, but it was released in Canada. So like it plays on your
system.
3DS. So do you really have a complete set if you don't have it? But do you really want to spend that kind of money on a Barbie
No.
game? So that's where you have to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah.
Am I really going complete? I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to number 2. And this game is Stunt Racer. Have either of you heard of this
Racer.
before research for this episode?
Nope. Looks fun though.
Yeah, I had heard of it, but only because obviously just I'm constantly watching stuff on collecting and stuff, but also I think most people are familiar with Metal Jesus, who has a very popular game collecting, game playing YouTube channel. And he has raved about this game for years, as far as it being a very, very good racing game on the 64. So just some pricing stuff here. Loose, if you find a copy, it's going to average you right about $350. Complete in box is over $2,000. You're looking at $2,195. This game was a Blockbuster exclusive. So that's why, like we talked about before, that's why it's so hard to find. I couldn't find anything stating that this game got a later retail release or anything. Like some of the, like I mentioned with Transformers, that did, and there was reason to believe some of the other games did get later retail releases as well, but there's no proof at all for this one.
Yeah.
Hold on, I wanted to look up. The release date was October 3rd, 2000. So definitely the end of the 64 era. I think at this point we got less than 5 games before the GameCube came out. So it was pushing the end. People were moving on to other stuff at this point. Got to pull up my notes here again. So yeah, Blockbuster exclusive. At the time of this recording, there was 2 complete in box copies on there. And I did find about a dozen loose copies. So it did have a decent amount of loose, but no CIB. But that's not surprising, being a rental exclusive. Like we talked about earlier, a lot of the boxes probably got tossed. They got cut up and put into weird, display boxes, or they, got tossed or whatever. Like when they resold them, they probably didn't have the box. They just sold the cartridge.
Yeah.
So that means that there's a lot less copies out there to find complete in box.
For sure.
So the game was developed by Boss Studios and published by Midway. I looked up Boss Studios. They weren't around for very long. They were known for doing some other racing games. And they did there was a Spider game on the PlayStation 1 that I've never played, but I've always wanted to. And that game, they did that game too. So I was kind of interested in that because I've always thought that game looked cool, even though I don't like spiders. But yeah, so it's at the end of the day, this is a racing game. It's very much so kind of a traditional, I don't know, I'll say like Ridge Racer or what's that game, Cruisin' USA, where it's based off of a track layout. There were a handful of different tracks. It played very similar to normal cup races, where you do a cup and you play in your 4 races or whatever. And then it also had just like a standard like contest mode where you could just do normal races and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, watching videos for it, it looks like a pretty good game. Like, it does look like a solid racing game. Graphically, looks pretty decent for a 64 game. And the overall consensus from everything I've read is that this is a good game. Like, it was actually a very solid game.
Nice.
So not that anything should necessarily be this expensive, but if it's one of the few games on the list that actually at least kind of deserves to be expensive.
Finally. We got to keep her.
Yeah, because they're not Nothing I read. Like, I went on Reddit and was reading people's comments, and a lot of people were like, "This is a hidden gem," like, and people being like, I used to rent this game all the time as a kid. I wish it wasn't so expensive."
Yeah,
Like,
in that regard, it's kind of unfortunate that it is a good game and it
know.
is on this list because, sorry, Metal Jesus, I take your word for it. It's probably fun, but I don't think I can pay that
stomach
much
it.
to play it.
yeah, paying $350
Loose.
loose.
I'll emulate it.
Yeah, 2,200 complete.
2,200 complete.
It's expensive, and that 2,200 price I do believe is very
Yeah, probably
very flexible.
probably on the low side too.
Yeah. All right, let's go to number 1.
All right, numero uno. We got Clay Fighters Sculptor's Cut. Y'all ever played Clay Fighters before? Before I go deeper into this,
A little bit. It was a game I wanted so bad when I was a kid, but my parents would not buy it for me.
Me and my brother had it on Super Nintendo, and I remember playing it a considerable amount. Just very visually memorable game. So the first Clay Fighters game was released in '94 on the SNES, and I think eventually ported to Sega Genesis. The cool thing that made this game unique and just like really memorable was that it was actual clay models that were photographed and like digitized to like, basically put it on the screen and make it a playable game.
It's like Mortal Kombat fashion.
Yeah. It's an arcade fighter.
Sick.
You're moving left to right. You got energy bars and you're just beating each other up. Yes, it's just a classic fighter from the 90s basically, but just had its own unique visuals and presentation art style that just was very memorable, at least for me, because I remember enjoying playing this game on the Super Nintendo.
And it had that humor that was very popular in the 90s.
It was lighter for sure.
Yeah, and I remember thinking this game just looked awesome. Like, I remember I had a Nintendo Power or something, and flipping through and just like thinking all the characters were so hilarious. Like,
yes,
the fat Santa Claus that didn't wear a shirt, and obviously the creepy snowman. Like,
Mr. Frosty, I think is what his name was. Yeah. So enter Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut, which was an updated version of Clay Fighter 63 and a third, which would be the first N64 Clay Fighters game, which you can get for a lot less money, by the way, if you want to play a Clay Fighters game on N64. So Sculptor's Cut is like I said, an updated version. It's really the definitive version of that game. It had an extended intro. It had 4 more characters. It had tweaked controls, apparently. I don't know to what extent. But hey, guess what? Guess where this was exclusive to? It rhymes with clock.
Oh, careful.
What do you think I was going to say?
I got nervous.
How stupid do you think I am? So it was exclusive to Blockbuster, and you couldn't buy it from Blockbuster. You could only rent it from Blockbuster. In North America only, BT dubs. Meaning, now apparently, eventually, this was true of, I think, any game that was exclusive to Blockbusters. Once they got rid of and stopped featuring N64 and Blockbuster, they eventually sold off all their games. So there was a small window where you could buy games from Blockbuster that were exclusive to them. Obviously, it wasn't a part of that. I don't remember it. According to a video I watched, they gave customers a chance, Blockbuster did, to win it through an online contest at some point. I don't know when that would have been, but apparently it happened. Needless to say, kind of along the lines of what Chris was saying, most stores, if you ever experienced walking into a Blockbuster or any rental store, they would have displayed like a generic plastic case, like on a shelf for you to all the games or movies, for example, and you'd be like, oh, I want that. I want to rent that. And you'd grab it. And sometimes it'd be like a generic case. Sometimes it'd be the actual game box, and you'd grab it and you'd take it to the front and they'd give you the cartridge and you'd take it home. So there probably were a number of lucky individuals, thieves, who never brought it back for whatever reason. They might have a copy of this game physical.
Fine is high.
Yeah, but
probably not as high as the price this game is going for.
Yeah,
I doubt it.
But needless to say, the only thing that a store like Blockbuster would have had use for was the box, maybe, but definitely the cartridge. So the fact that they were the only ones that had this game sounds like they threw away all the instruction booklets immediately. They had no use for them. So generally speaking, they would just toss them.
A lot of times they would put them in the cases.
Would they really?
I don't remember this at all. Games and having the instruction booklet with it, and then having a sticker on the front that because if you didn't get it back, they'd fine you.
Interesting. Oh, that's so. Well, you would hope that'd be the case, but it sounds like a lot of them were lost in the mix, instruction booklets, because there was no real practical need for them. Anyways. I don't know what it is loose, but complete in what is it loose?
$1,000.
Oof, that's rough. Complete in box, according to price charting, $6,891.30. And I would imagine that is low.
Yeah, this game is something else, man. There are 3 copies listed on eBay, but they're all higher than that.
It's
I know-
car prices.
Yeah, I know. Double Jump Video Games, I mentioned them earlier, down in Vancouver. They have a copy of this right now, new, and it's graded and everything. I know he has it listed for like $10,000 and that's probably cheap for
Yeah.
that, like realistically, but nobody wants to pay that right
No.
now. You need the right collector to buy that. But yeah, this game, like I said, I collected 64 games pretty heavily, probably about 12 years ago or so, maybe 13. And this game, even back then, was the game that you wanted if you were a 64 collector.
Yeah.
Because it was already back then expensive and like rare. Like you didn't see it very often. Though you say rare, but it would come up. You'd always see it on eBay. Like you'd see the occasional offer up listing or whatever of somebody having it. But yeah, it's always been expensive. It's the I don't have a great. It's like the Shantae of the 64 as far as like the rarity goes. When people think of the 64, they know Sculptor's Cut is the rare game.
Yeah.
One cool thing you didn't mention is this game was made by, I believe it's Interplay, who's the company that made Earthworm Jim, and Earthworm Jim's a playable
That's
fighter.
right. He's a playable fighter. That's true. So interesting.
So that's cool.
Yeah, in 3D. You said Lucy was $1,000. Mm-hmm. So that means how much of the remaining $5,800 attached to this game would be attributed to just the instruction booklet? I wonder. How much would you have to pay just to get the instruction booklet for this game? I wonder. I would bet it's the majority of the total price.
We can look at what price charting says an instruction booklet goes for. Well, they say the box is more expensive.
Really?
They say the box is worth $3,200. The manual's worth $1,800.
That seems
the cardboard.
That seems surprising to me because again, you'd think the box would be easier to find than the instruction booklet. I would think.
I would imagine that just means that a lot of the boxes they stored in the back or something, and when they sold them, they tossed them back in the box. But maybe the instructions didn't make that journey somehow.
That's
Or
interesting.
sorry, vice versa. The instructions I guess what you said was right. Now I'm just stumbling over my words. The instructions probably got kept and put into the boxes for rentals, and then the boxes did just get tossed. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. But hey, you want to play you want to play this game not definitive? Probably like $15, I would imagine.
Yeah. No, it's way cheaper. I didn't look it up, but it's definitely cheap for
Yeah.
just a loose copy of the base game.
But honestly, these are very interesting, fun fighters that I enjoyed as a kid, and I would recommend them if you want to play like an old fighter from those days. You know, they weren't like, it wasn't Street Fighter for sure. It wasn't like I don't know, Killer Instinct quality, but it was still fun.
They're pretty badly reviewed.
Yeah,
I mean, this one
yeah,
specifically
yeah.
was. If you want to play one, maybe don't try to play Sculptor's Cut because you don't want to pay that much money.
Nope, not worth it.
But there you have it. So that's the 10 most expensive and seemingly rare from what we can find 64 games. Just to go over that list again, that is Daikatana at number 10 for, I'm just going to do the CIB prices, $387 complete in box. Transformers Beast Wars Transmetal at $753. Rat Attack at $775. Bomberman 64 Second Attack at $877. Worms Armageddon at $978. Rampage 2 Universal Tour, the big box variant, at around $1,500. Super Bowling at $1,773. F1 Racing Championship at $1,958. Stunt Racer at $2,195. And Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut at $6,891.
Making my Pokemon box look like a stick of gum.
Just have to bring up Pokemon. I'm just messing with you. Yeah, I will say this though about this list is I feel like this list has a lot of variability to it. I bet there are games that are more expensive or harder to find than this that just don't have as much price charting. But I didn't do the research on all that, so this is just the list we're going with. But there is an honorable mention I want to bring up that I've seen. Once again, this is thanks to the Sick Cooper channel on YouTube, and that's, I'm sure you guys are both familiar with Gauntlet Legends.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
So are you familiar with it, Jaden?
hack and slashy team
Dungeon
game.
crawler.
Mhm.
Maybe if I saw it. Yeah.
Okay, so
They're
it was
good times.
it was on 64, PS1, Dreamcast, and then Gauntlet Legends Dark Legacy was really popular on PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. Very popular in the arcades for years. Fun games. Yeah, you pick warrior, mage, jester, archer, and you'd work together to fight through a dungeon.
Good
Basically,
times.
very straightforward but very fun. So it did get a release on Nintendo 64, and it had a basic retail release that goes for not too much money. I think, well, it's not cheap. I think it's like $100. But there is a variant of this that came with a pewter figure of one of the characters in it. And I can't, through the research I did, I can't find or figure out if that figure was always the same or if it changed between the different characters you could pick. But the box is interesting because it looks the exact same. But on the top left corner, there's a cutout, and then it's like plastic overlay where the figure could be seen in the box.
Yeah.
And then I think it said figure included or something. It would point towards it.
It
Or
sounds like something
that.
they would do in a VHS. Like I remember them doing that with Indian in the cupboard. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's super random. But yeah, it came with the little
That is so. This probably was at Walmart too.
probably.
I don't know.
So it's just really random. I looked on eBay because I knew about this, like I said, because of Sick Cooper's channel. So I decided to look it up to see how much it's going for. I can't find anything. I think it's so obscure that like there's none on eBay, there's none sold. There's not a separate listing for it that I could find on price charting, but it exists. Like I've seen video of it. So it's just a really random thing, but I thought I'd bring it out because it would be really cool to have.
Something like that sounds like it'd be even more valuable potentially than even Sculptor's Cut, just
Yeah,
because of
that-
how little's known about it.
That's what I'm saying, and I'm sure there's more stuff like this too that has this level of obscurity that we
Yeah.
don't even know about that isn't included on this list.
Yeah. Some of this stuff's literally lost to time. It just has been, like who has this stuff anymore?
Yeah, unless they were collecting back then, it's probably gone.
Interesting.
So yeah, so the 64 is definitely an interesting system. It's a fun one to collect for, fun one to play on, but there is a lot of garbage on it, and and the complete in box games are expensive. Just a couple of small random reminders to keep in mind if you ever decide to collect 64 games, and that's to keep an eye out on reproduction carts. And like, if you want to buy a reproduction cart just to play it and you're paying like a fair reproduction price, that's one thing. But reproduction carts are aplenty when it comes to 64 games. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you can pay $60 to $100 for a copy of, Mario 64 or Mario Kart or whatever the going rate is. And it's fake. It's completely fake. You see them all the time. They're littered on eBay, especially for these more popular games. But Sculptor's Cut has a lot of them out there too. So you need to be careful. If you look at a listing and it doesn't have the board shown, you probably don't want to buy it. But then another random thing with 64 carts is there were a lot of not for resale carts on the Nintendo 64, which not for resale carts were basically demo versions of the game that got sent to retailers to play on their demo units. But on the 64, a lot of these copies ended up being the full version. So like they end up being, they have just the same amount of value as the base version, but then they're a variant that has more value. So if you ever see a copy in the wild of, any number of Nintendo 64 games that says not for resale on it, and it seems cheap, it's probably worth buying because it's probably worth quite a bit more money than you would think. And I'm sure some of these have like weird idiosyncrasies that were fixed, on later or taken away or removed. I don't have all the details on all that stuff, but it's just an interesting thing to look out for if you're looking for loose Nintendo 64 games. Okay, and the last thing is I asked all of us to just have one game that we felt like was so cheap on the 64 that it was still kind of worth getting. Because normally we in these episodes will say like, hey, these are a couple games we think could end up skyrocketing in price or becoming way get more rare as they go on. You should pick it up now. It's the 64 is too late. So that might happen, but we can't predict that. It'd be pretty hard. So I thought instead, let's just talk about a game we think is worth the price that it's going for right now because it's still kind of cheap. And you guys both had one? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll just do mine first. And for me, it's not going to be for everybody, but I think if you're a Star Wars fan, Shadows of the Empire. It's only about $45, complete in box.
Oh,
and
whoa.
Yeah, it's super
That's cheap.
cheap. It's a super good game. It's like I said on the Nintendo 64 episode we did with Jarrett about a month ago. It's in my top 5 games on the 64 of all time. I think there's a lot to appreciate there if you're a Star Wars fan. I could not say that I would feel like anybody who's not a Star Wars fan should play it. I don't know what you'd get out of it, but very fun, very unique, and just a really good game. I've talked about it a lot already. If you want to know my thoughts on it, listen to the 64 episode.
Star Wars merch always has a little bit of a extra inherent collectability.
Yeah.
Also, so
But yeah, I just feel like it's crazy that game's still so cheap.
yeah.
So all right, let's do Jimmy.
I'm gonna go with Pokemon Snap. Loose $12, but complete.
Wow.
This is a little bit higher. I mean, according to price charting, $100. But I mean, for a complete in box Pokemon game, which from what I know, is the very first Pokemon game released on 64.
Yeah, it beat Stadium.
I feel like, yeah, because I looked up Stadium and Stadium 2. They're both upwards of $200, if not a lot more, for complete in box.
Yeah.
I just feel like this one could definitely could creep higher. Would not surprise me at all. And it's just legitimately great and fun game, which inspired.
Highly regarded by the people who played it back in the day.
Yes.
Everyone talks about Pokemon Snap. It's
Yeah,
like,
everyone
it's
loves
that cheap though.
No,
That's crazy.
For a Pokemon game too, which also is more
Yeah.
inherently collectible.
That's
This is
cheaper
one-
than a loose Game Boy Advance cart.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
Of like Fire
No, I
Red or
know,
something.
exactly.
So, complete in box.
Yeah, it's just it's pretty and colorful and it pops and it's a Pokemon game. So this is one I got my eye on for sure.
Definitely worth
I think
it.
it's
I
reasonable.
love that game.
Yeah.
Jade?
Sick. Well, I guess I kind of forgot about the complete in box aspect of this.
Doesn't have to be.
I
Doesn't have to be.
I just wanted to take note of Mega Man 64 is on price charting is exactly $64.00. I just thought that was that was nice. I don't mind if it stays that high. I think it should just stay at that price level.
Is that game Mega Man Legends?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the exact same game. I think it's less good because it's 64 port, so like the sound quality is probably even more compressed. But yeah, it's essentially this same game. I'm trying to think if there were any differences, but none that I know of, other than it looking like a 64 game, and PS1 looks like a PS1 game. I guess one thing I would like to say about just first party Nintendo games, it's nice that they're all just in the relative like $15-$25 range for like the main ones, the real good first party thing, because like GameCube right now is just ridiculous. Like there's
Yeah.
Marios and Zeldas and Mario Parties are just stupid expensive, but I guess it makes more sense because a lot of those GameCube games are stuck on the GameCube. They haven't been re-released. There's not been a virtual console like the 64 has had.
Yeah.
So that's nice. I guess my game, I went with Pokemon Puzzle League,
Nice.
which I'm glad I'm not the only one who liked that game back in the day. A kid at my school gave me that. This was a few years later. My brother's friend got us an N64. So I eventually did have a 64 later on in my childhood. But yeah, and I eventually got this puzzle game. I was obsessed with Pokemon at the time, and I played this. Obviously, I'm going to check this out, and it was surprisingly good. Like you guys said, the whole presentation is just top notch.
I love that game.
I'm surprised it's so cheap, and I think CIB is only like, I want to say like $100 also, just
Yeah.
around there. I guess I don't know Pokemon spin-offs if they're not as expensive as the mainline games, but this game and Pokemon Snap
Yeah.
are pretty solid spin-offs.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That'd be my pick.
Yep. No, that's a good pick. I love that game. Yeah. So honestly, there are still a surprising amount of games that you can get on the 64. Even, I mean, loose, there's a bunch of stuff, like Jaden just said, that you can get cheap on the 64 if you just want to get a nice loose collection. Even if you want to go for complete and box stuff, I have my eye on a few games that I want to get because they're still so cheap. Pilot
Yeah.
Wing 64 is only about $50.
Yeah.
1080 snowboarding is only like 35.
No, dude, hey, I was talking to you before in preparation for this episode weeks back. It was coming off the heels of our 64 top 10 games. I was like, I wanted to pick up either Wave Race,
Yeah, I was gonna say, how much does
complete
that
in box,
go
or I
for?
wanted to pick up Perfect Dark. And I was really surprised to see on Mercari that like you can get brand new copies of Perfect Dark for like under $100 sometimes. And I almost pulled the trigger on one. I didn't realize that when you watch something or like it, that you draw attention to yourself on Mercari. And so as soon as I did that, it was bought by somebody, and I was just like, What happened?
It was because you made an offer.
Oh, that's right. I made an offer. That's exactly what.
So he didn't know that when you make an offer on Mercari, it tells people who are watching
No.
it, like, somebody just made an offer.
Because
you
it doesn't do that on eBay, does it? That doesn't. They don't have that system
I
built
don't
in.
think so.
Yeah,
I've
because
never noticed, but
I don't like that. I'm like, I have to be timid about making offers. Like, I don't feel like any offer is ever going to work if somebody else is looking at it. If people have an alert system.
if it's that hot, you might just need to take the price that
yeah.
it's at.
Oh, I wish I had, because it was like 50 or 60 for a brand
was
new.
cheap,
I was
yeah.
just like,
But there
perfect dark. Like,
there were some
what?
like red flags, but like about the account and stuff.
Yeah.
But like everything said it was real, so it
Yeah.
was a gamble. But it seemed
It might have been worth taking a stab at, and I could have got returned potentially if it didn't work. But
Yeah.
like you're saying, some of the best games are really reasonably priced, even like brand new. Sometimes I'm just like, what?
yeah. And frankly, these most expensive games are probably some of the worst on the system.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know, with a few exceptions, but
Yeah. Well, in some regards, Nintendo 64 is coded, but in some regards, not. Yeah.
it's boated.
boated.
I don't know what that means. Baddest of all. Wait, that's a
yeah.
good thing too.
Yes. You're the boat.
You're the boat. All right, guys. Well, it's been fun. It's been a long night since we did the YouTube thing already too, so we're gonna go ahead and start closing off here. But thank you both for joining. Thanks both for recording the YouTube video with me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we mentioned it enough already in this episode, but if you haven't, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel so you get a notification when I post the one-ups and pickups on there here in the next few weeks or so. We put a lot of work into it, and I hope it turned out, but I would love to hear feedback once we post it, see what people think about it.
No more Landmark episodes until 100. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? What other numbers matter?
I'm just going to close.
99!
Tetris
There's a
99
nice
themed
number in there
episode.
somewhere.
87, the year I was born.
Oh,
man, that'll be a very
yeah,
special
gotcha.
episode. Yeah, but no, I appreciate you guys coming, doing the research.
Happy
It
to
was
be on.
definitely a more research heavy episode than normal, but for the collector's editions at least. But I enjoyed it, so I don't know. And I kind of liked the way we did this too, where we did a ranking of our favorite games for the 64, and then did the collector's edition for the 64. And I do intend to also do a YouTube video of my 64 collection as well to post.
Nice.
So I kind of am thinking about trying to do a little bit more theming like that, where like if we do a collector's edition episode, try to follow it up within a couple episodes of the like a ranking of our favorite games on the console and doing a collection video for YouTube. Just kind of keep a theme going there, but we'll see how that goes. So, all right, guys. Well, we're gonna go ahead and close off. So once again, thank you everybody for listening. I appreciate all the support as always. It's always nice to hear everybody's feedback on the episode after we post it. It definitely means a lot. So please keep it up, and we'll see you here soon in a couple weeks to talk about Animal Crossing with Hannah and a couple other guests, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks again, and remember to always press X to continue.